Take me on home to the asylum.
I'm vibing!
Never alone in the asylum.
That's most definitely what's up.
Anarchy ruled, it was wild, but through it all you never smiled. Joke's on you, I'm in your head, so look who's laughing now. Remembering
Got him!
Arkham City. I killed your girl, so pretty. That was the night you let me die. But when I looked you in the eye, that's when I knew we'd be together. Look who's laughing now. I'm stuck in your head and I'm laughing. Ah, I feel you with dread and I can't stop laughing. Your parents are dead and I can't stop laughing. What else can I do? Now I'm part of you. I am the clown, prince of crime. And we've had a hell of a time. You're part of me, I'm part of you. And now there's nothing left to do. I just can't wait till I'm in control. Who'll be laughing then? I drove you round the bend and I'm laughing. I'm with you till the end and I can't stop laughing. I killed all your friends and I can't stop laughing.
That's most definitely what's up.
Oh yeah. I think I can taste your fear. Now that my time is near. I'm in your blood, I'm so alive. I only wish you'd let me drive. It won't be long till I make you kill. Who'll be laughing then? Barbara's dead and I'm laughing. Ah! Jason Todd's dead and I can't stop laughing. I'm even dead and I can't stop laughing. What else can I do? Now I'm part of you. I drove you round the bend and I'm laughing. I'm with you till the end and I can't stop laughing. I killed all your friends and I can't stop laughing. I'm cock-a-doodle-doo. All because of you. I'm stuck in your head and I'm laughing. Ah, I fill you with dread and I can't stop laughing. Your parents are dead and I can't stop laughing. I'm stuck in your head and I'm laughing. I filled you with dread and I can't stop laughing. Your parents are dead and I can't stop laughing. What else can I do? Now I'm part of you. There's nothing like a comeback, is there, Matt? Let's go again.
Good morning, ladies and gents. How are we doing? How we doing? We doing good? Feeling good? Feeling lively? Hopefully you are. I know I'm having a good day. I almost didn't. Last night for a video, I forced myself to play multiple hours of Redfall. Oops. It was, oh, that was a mistake. It's because when I did that Golem video, people commented on that. Not many, like three. But 3 people commented on it and were like, Luke, this is just hate baiting. Why don't you go and give Redfall another shot? And so I said, okay. And we did, and it turns out it's like almost worse than I remember. Like DLSS is broken. All of the upscaling tech is broken. It's just worse somehow. And they haven't said anything about it in 3 months. They still owe everybody DLC. They sold DLC with that premium edition. That's $100. And there is no word on whether they're getting 60 FPS, much less DLC. Like, it's insane. So that video will go up tomorrow, I believe. But yeah, man, that was crazy. Why is your FNAF shirt Bonnie pink and not blue? It's kind of purple. Maybe in the camera it comes through, but it's kind of purple. Bonnie's not blue, I don't think. Bonnie's purple. Are you gonna make me Google FNAF and like ruin my searches forever? Yeah, Bonnie's purple. What are you talking about? I mean, yeah, it's like a brighter purple in this shirt, but Bonnie's not blue. Yeah, me freaked out for a minute. I wear this shirt whenever I see my little brother Eli because he loves Five Nights at Freddy's, so it's always like he always loves seeing the shirt. It's my little detail. Yeah, Jacob used to do a lot of like videos and stuff on FNAF. He knows his FNAF. Ooh. I hope Starfield gets better soon, and I hope it gets less buggy. Yeah, it's been very interesting. A lot of people, hardcore or old school Bethesda fans, have a very high tolerance for bugs, and so they haven't really noticed most of them. But they're there. Like, I remember there was, I forget who it was, but it was a clip I saw on Twitter of somebody playing Starfield, and they were talking about, it was a clip by like a PlayStation fanboy, so take it with a grain of salt. But they posted this video of a guy playing Starfield, and he's like, I haven't had any bugs whatsoever, no issues. Everybody that's saying that is either crazy or they have a broken version of the game. And then they fast forward like 30 seconds in the game, and then they show like a character walking into a wall and glitching while trying to talk to them. But like to that person, it just, they didn't notice it, they didn't care, so they tuned it out and didn't even really process it as a problem. So I think there are bugs in the game, there are weird glitches and stutters and weird things that happen. Doesn't mean that it's a big deal though. And that's the difference. Like, I still think it's unacceptable for a game to launch with any broken quests at all, with any sort of major performance issues. I think that's totally unacceptable. But the weird thing is that BGS does have a free pass with a lot of their fans. It's just weird, but they always have. It's odd. Like, Ubisoft launches a game with the same technical problems. They rightly get dragged over the coals. But BGS does it, and their more hardcore fans just tune it out. It's weird. But, I mean, I guess Ubisoft fans probably do the same thing. If they're really excited for the next Assassin's Creed game, then they just tune it out too, you know? Thank you for your sacrifice on Redfall. I didn't want to try. I think the setting of Redfall is really cool. I think they could have had an interesting world to explore there, but man, every part of the execution is just, oh, every single part is just rough. A bug in a BGS game is really only one that prevents playing, like just a pathing error or an AI bug. That's like dime a dozen. Yeah, it's just, there's different standards. It's also known as double standards, but it's because the rest of the game people love enough that they can look past it. And that's why, like, for Fallout New Vegas objectively is like still a pretty broken game. Like, it's pretty rough without mods even now, but it's so good people are willing to look past it. So do with that what you will, I guess.
Luke Frederick super chatted $10.
Jeez.
Any updates on your BG3 full review by chance? I will say the reason I don't like many hardcore BGS fans is BC they give excuse for the rest of the industry to launch buggy products.
Yeah, I think that's the slippery slope with it. First of all, thank you for the 10, but I just think, like, if you're gonna have a standard, like, listen, we need to not have broken quests in games, you should set that as the standard and hold to it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's from a studio you love, doesn't matter if it's from a studio you hate. If they launch buggy stuff, that's a problem. It just is. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. The game can still be good, and this is what, like, is really frustrating, because when you talk to people that are in fanboy mode, like, you could say The Last of Us Part 1. That was pitched as a remake, and it's just like a glorified remaster. There's nothing transformational. Yeah, technically looks better, but there's nothing transformational. To charge full price for that is crazy. It's just ridiculous. And like, that's because we have the standard that remakes should be transformational. They should significantly improve the original experience. And as a result, then you can justify perhaps charging full price, but The Last of Us Part 1 was an egregious pricing for what was effectively just a reskin and a remaster. I understand they swapped out models, they did all that, but effectively, for the player, it's just a prettier version of the thing you could already buy for way cheaper. That they then delisted so they could force you to buy the new one. You know, that's all it really was. And so if we're going to hold them to that standard, we also have to hold other companies to the same standard when they do lazy remasters and stuff. Like Ubisoft with the Prince of Persia thing that now is in development hell, apparently, where they were going to remake Prince of Persia, but it ended up just being like a really weird looking reskin that looked 10 years out of date to begin with. So you just have to hold things to the same standard, I think. Like if you're going to hold company A to this standard, hold company B. And you know, we can say, yeah, these bugs are unacceptable and we should not be okay with this. And that just is what it is. The game can still be good, but I think that you should still be able to call those things out. And Cryptics, I thought this was really funny. Luke, do you think you are so critical because you've been handed everything in life on a silver plate? For sure. I mean, if you think I've had everything handed to me on a silver plate, you clearly do not know me. But that's definitely true. I should buy a silver plate. I should buy a silver plate and a silver spoon and then like have all my drinks and crap on it for the stream. That would be hilarious. We should actually do that. I might have I bet I could ask my mom for like one of my grandma's old like china. It's not china, I guess, if it's silver, but like some of her old dishes and stuff. I think she has a silver platter from back in the day. Cause like my grandparents in the 80s apparently were very, very like wealthy. And then like Black Monday, I think it was what it was, hit and they lost everything. Like they went from living very high, very, very wealthy, doing very well, owned multiple apartment buildings, drove fancy cars, all this. My grandma had every sort of antique, collectible, whatever, fancy furniture, all that. And then they lost everything. And I mean, my grandpa worked as a cashier at a supermarket until he basically couldn't. Because he's just a hardworking dude. And he's like, well, it is what it is. And so he got back to work. But as a result, my grandma has kind of hoarded a lot of those fancy things that she had back in the 80s when they were very well off. Even though now it's not really worth anything. Like, what millennial is going to go buy a silver platter or like fine china or an antique dining table, you know? Like, who's going to do that? So it's all kind of, it's probably not worthless, but it's worth a lot less than she thinks it is. But she still has some of those silver things. So I bet I could get a silver platter from her and unironically use it every day. That would be freaking hilarious. Oh, man. Oh, no way, Grady.
Justin
That's
Stoll
crazy.
Super chatted $10. Thoughts that, for BGS, it's polished and good, and grading on a curve. Also, the excuse that modders will do BGS's work by modding things that should have been in the game at launch.
It's one of these weird, like, very exceptional cases. I mean, we have double standards in the industry, let's be honest. We just do. Nintendo gets away with being anti-consumer all the time. They get away with never putting their games on sale, with having everything still at full price a decade after the game is launched, charging full price for a Wii U game that they ported to the Switch. Like, they get away with this stuff all the time because they're Nintendo, and it just is what it is. And I mean, if you like Nintendo, you just kind of have to deal with it. And with BGS, it seems like, yeah, it's really polished for a Bethesda game. I'm like, yeah, but that's not saying much. Like I said in my review, I'm like, yeah, this is far and away the most polished game Bethesda has ever put out. It's not saying much, but it's still way, way more polished than anything they've put out before. It's still, I think, below the bar of where it probably should have been at launch, but you know what? They're actively fixing it. And maybe by now it's already improved enough that it's acceptable. I mean, I was playing it in a review period before even early access, before the official launch. So it's possible a lot of the bugs and stuff I came across in my review period are fixed now. I won't know until I go through and play again. But yeah, everybody just, you know, gives double standards for this stuff, and I think it's fair to like bring it up. But you know, at the end of the day, people are just not going to care because they like the game. And I can understand that. Like, they like the game. That's cool. But when you make excuses for one studio, inevitably another studio is going to come along and try to take advantage of the same kind of benefit of the doubt. We've seen that with like Jedi Survivor. They just fixed that the other day, but it should have never launched in the state that it did, but they got away with it because people liked the game. And so people just kind of look the other way. And I just think that is a slope I don't want to make slick or slippery because once companies think that they can get away with, Jesus, what is that box? There's a massive box being delivered at the front door. Hold on, I'm checking my ring doorbell. Like, seriously, this thing is massive. Did I order something? Let's see. I would show you, but I don't want to dox myself. I'm sure you can understand. Oh, this might actually be the thing that guy said he wanted to send me. Yeah, that might be it, Iron. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna see what this is. Luke got a bomb. Yeah, dude. Okay, this is like childhood trauma. Okay, real quick, I'm just gonna say this and then I'm gonna go grab it. One time, this is so clear in my mind. Maybe Jacob knows about this too. One time, when we were pretty young, I mean, I was probably like 10. I remember my dad was working from home, and a package showed up on the front doorstep, and this thing looked janky. I mean, it was like an older box. It had clearly been beaten up. It's like completely wrapped in tape, you know. It has a bunch of like Chinese markings on it because it was shipped from China, so you know it had gone through customs and everything, and the packages get really beat up when they go through customs over there for whatever reason. So like this thing looked really sketchy, and my dad had no idea what it was, but it was addressed directly to him. And at the time, my dad was like a hardcore conspiracy theorist and like was convinced the world was ending and that Obama was going to come and take his children and stuff. So at that point, we went and like he had all of the kids go down to the basement, and then he took the box upstairs to the top floor into the master bedroom to open it up privately because he thought it might be a bomb. And so he was like, okay, kids, go downstairs so that if the bomb goes off, you're okay. I was like, wait, if you're that worried about it being a bomb, don't open the damn thing. Like, what are you talking about? Like, call somebody or something. I'm a kid, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And if it's a bomb also, having us go, exactly, Drizzy, having us go downstairs multiple flights down is probably not going to help. The house is going to explode and then collapse down on top of us. I don't know how that helps anything. Yeah, nah, I got this, son. You're fine. Yeah, so the whole thing was kind of scarring, and it was just a box of books he had ordered off of Amazon or something. It was like a total not big deal at all, but I still remember that as a child being like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, like, I guess it kind of scarred me because as a kid I was like, is daddy about to die? It was a little upsetting. Anyway, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab that package. Okay, I'm gonna be right back. In the meantime, I don't know what I can do. Oh, hold on. Let's do this. Okay, this one. I'll be right back.
Charisma's wearing a bomb vest. There are 5 other bombs around the room.
Got it. Don't be shy. There's room up here on stage for 2. No, really, I insist. As you can see, the crowd is so excited it may just explode!
Nobody serenades you but me, Bats. Take it away, boys. Take me on home to the asylum. Never alone in the asylum. Anarchy ruled, it was wild, but through it all you never smiled. Joke's on you, I'm in your head, so look who's laughing now. Remember in Arkham City, I killed your girl, so pretty. That was the night you let me die. But when I looked you in the eye, that's when I knew we'd be together. Look who's laughing now. I'm stuck in your head and I'm laughing. Ah, I feel you with dread and I can't stop laughing. Your parents are dead and I can't stop laughing. What else can I do? Now I'm part of you. I am the clown, prince of crime. And we've had a hell of a time. You're part of me, I'm part of you. And now there's nothing left to do. I just can't wait till I'm in control. Who'll be laughing then? I drove you round the bend and I'm laughing. I'm with you till the end and I can't stop laughing. I killed all your friends and I can't stop laughing.
That's all the bombs disarmed. Time to take down Charisma.
Fear. Now that my time is near. I'm in your blood, I'm so alive. I only wish you'd let me try.
How did you guys like that XQC reaction I was just doing? Was that good? Is that pretty good? Am I going to be like a big successful streamer now? That I figured it out? Yeah, it's the Hassan chair, yeah. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, did I pre-order the Spider-Man Special Edition? No, I can't afford the 19 inches. I mean, I could, but I don't know if I could take it. Get it? Because of penises. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, the house we're buying, we discovered like a pretty massive issue yesterday. Like a $25,000 issue. So, we are, of course, they're getting a second opinion on it, because I'm not buying a house that needs 25 grand of work day one. So, hopefully they fix it. Otherwise, we're going to have to get a different house. No, it's a sewer line is bellied. So the sewer line is like screwed up and it runs under the driveway. So to fix it, they have to dig up the entire driveway of the new house, rerun all the piping, and then also dig like a 10-foot trench from where the driveway is under the sidewalk, because they're not allowed to touch the sidewalk, and then dig into the street to reattach the pipe to the sewer main. It's like a huge deal. They have to get traffic control. They have to get all these permits and everything. It's an ordeal. So understandably, the seller is not thrilled that we discovered this, but I'm like, hey, better you than me, my friend. First things first. I don't know for sure what this is, but we're going to see together. If it's something really embarrassing, that'll be really, really funny. So let's see. They probably aren't going to pay for it. The problem is that now it's been discovered, it can't be undiscovered. So in brokerage, you have to legally disclose material facts once they're known. So if a broker knows that a house has, say, a roof that leaks, they have to tell every single buyer that shows up from then on out. Otherwise, they lose their license, can be like sued. All sorts of crazy stuff can happen. So you have to disclose all that. And now that we've rung that bell, the seller has to disclose it every single time, as does the broker. And so they're just kind of like, they're screwed. Like, they have to fix it because they can't sell the house until it is fixed to anybody, because nobody is going to look at that and be like, oh yeah, we'll pay full price with a $25,000 fix that we have to do day one. So they have to deal with it. Okay, these first are the little... Aww. Okay, these are adorable. These are adorable. Okay, you ready? First, it's a little Quidditch mini set. That's super cool. Again, Mark requested I not, maybe he'll change his mind, then I'll do it. But he requested I not like say his full name or his username or anything. He just requested that I call him Mark. So I'm respecting that. But Mark sent this over to us. This one, the Gringotts Vault. Love that. Super cute. This is like, I think it's part of a big edition or big thing they're doing with Harry Potter, because they're doing like Back to Hogwarts, I think is the event. I'm not really sure what it is about, but they announced a couple of things with Hogwarts Legacy, where they are doing like a documentary, kind of like raising Kratos on the development of the game, and that'll be shared sometime in the future. I don't know, but Nikki's gonna be like, are you kidding me? Somebody sent you more Legos? yeah, sure did. Can't you ask for the 30K discount on the house? You could. The problem with that is that the fix on the house doesn't cost a discount. It costs cash money, dollar bills. And so if you want to fix the thing on the house, you have to come up with the cash. So it's the same thing. Like if you're going to buy a used computer that was initially priced at $1,500, and let's say your budget, well, let's just say, okay, it was originally priced at $1,500, but you realize the graphics card is totally dead, and you now need to, well, it's not a direct comparison. The whole thing, like in a house, when you buy a house, you are getting a loan. You don't actually have $500,000 to pay in cash for a house. You have maybe 50,000 or 100,000, and then you put that down and you get a loan for the rest. So to fix something like this, you need cash to do it. And as a result, that all of a sudden takes away all of your down payment, or a chunk of your down payment, because you have to use actual cash to fix it. So they could discount the house from like 500 down to 475, which builds in the cost of the fix, but then you just have a smaller loan, but you still have to come up with the cash to pay it. So it just doesn't actually work out for most people, which is why in these cases you counter and you say, no, we want this fixed before close. Then the owner has to fix it before they can close the deal. And usually that's just a way better option, because it's fixed day one, problem solved. We don't have to worry about it. And then the seller will get their money when they sell the house. It just works out. Oh, yeah. It's the big one. It's the big one. Ready? Oh, Lordy. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, my God. This, shout out to Mark. Jesus. It's Gringotts Bank with the underground, like, caves or whatever, and vaults. That's ridiculous. It, like, the whole thing sits on top of it. It doesn't even look like it should stand up straight. Jeez, dude. That's insane. That's insane. Thank you, Mark. Jesus Christ. Jesus. Oh, and it comes with a Hagrid, too. It comes with a Hagrid. That's great. Wow. Pog in chat, boys. Pog in chat. Does Mark get free signed merch? Oh, for sure. If he wants a back rub, I'll get him that. I don't care for that. Oh, jeez, dude. Very generous. That's crazy. Just moved to Twitch already. Then I can start doing back rub hot tub streams. Okay, well, that's awesome. So we're gonna have to work on that. Marky, yeah. What was Lego set? We just got the Gringotts Bank, the brand new set from Lego. That is kind of crazy. I think it's brand new. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Like fully built, it's... Oh my god, leave me alone. Fully built, it's just crazy. It's huge. The little carts run on the tracks. Like, it's wild. It's ridiculous. Then Hagrid and Harry. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm a child. Let's just be honest with it. So that's going to go in the new studio too. We're going to have a lot more space for stuff like this. That's crazy. It's going to be wild. Thoughts on people thinking Starfield is the best RPG of all time, let alone the year? I don't think anybody truly believes. I mean, if they actually believe that, they just clearly have not played very many RPGs. Like, without a doubt, the best RPG role-playing game of the year is Baldur's Gate 3, and it's not even close. But everybody agrees on, like, even the most hardcore Bethesda fans will agree to this. Maddie even tweeted it out. He's like, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is a way better RPG. But Starfield was never trying to be that kind of RPG. So, like, even hardcore fans are well aware of this. It's just like people trolling or being a Poe that are saying stuff like that. I don't believe that anybody's actually that serious. Let's see. Also, shout out to... I missed a few of these. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. We got distracted, I guess. Robert Connor, 1 month of support. Thank you. Shout out to Mark. Yeah, shout out Mark. Oh, hi, Mark. Thank you, my friend, for the membership. First super chat for Silver Platter Fund. Thank you, Adam. We'll put it in the coffers. Down in the coffers in my wine cellar. Justin also. Oh, yeah, we read these and the one from Luke. Yes. Thank you guys for the super chats and memberships. That's tremendous. What I do think we're going to do when we get into the new studio, just for everybody so you're all aware, is I do think we're going to do 1 or 2 streams a week on Twitch just for gameplay, because YouTube, for whatever reason, for our stuff, doesn't like gameplay streams. It just doesn't. They like to treat these videos or these streams as videos. So when we just play games, it just tanks. Like, it stops recommending live streams to people. It's weird. I think our channel is just considered a hybrid in the algorithm, so it just doesn't like it. So I think what we're going to do is when I'm just playing a game for review or critiques or whatever, we'll do that on Twitch, and then everything else we're going to keep doing here on YouTube. So nothing's going to actually like change. We'll have the same number of streams here, same type of content. All the stream clips and everything will go here, but gameplay stuff we'll just start doing there. Like last night playing Redfall for that video, I'll just do that on Twitch instead of just choosing not to stream it at all, you know? New studio build video? Yeah, I'm down. It's going to be a bit of an ordeal because we have a lot of painting we have to do. We have furniture to get and to build. It's going to be a pretty big thing. A lot of streamers do both. You mean like co-streaming? The problem with co-streaming is that it adds a lot of latency. So if you're one of the streamers that just likes to like play your game and kind of just do that. It's not a big deal. Or if you're a huge streamer where chat's going so fast that you can't keep up with it anyways, that's not a big deal. But for me, I really like, as you can tell, reading through chat, bouncing off of it, getting feedback, and spitballing like this. And that's just not that doable with higher latency, you know. Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing, but I kind of hate people that use the argument to shit on other games. Yeah, well, this is why devs were saying a while ago, they were like, you should not hold these newer games to the same standard. It's not fair. And that was the whole debate with, like, has Baldur's Gate actually raised the bar, or is that not fair, and blah, blah, blah. And I just think, like, this is where the shoe drops. Like, the game's great, but now any game that claims that any game that claims that they're an RPG gets lumped into that. It's why it's like so dumb to me for people to just dodge the let's see. Yeah, it's why it's so weird to me that people just try to dodge the point that, like, hey, technologically, like, I had this argument with Joe Raptor yesterday on the podcast, and it was just like, or Wednesday, I think. And it was just frustrating because I was like, you can love Starfield, but you have to acknowledge that technologically it is nowhere near what contemporaries are doing. Even what games 6-7 years ago were doing. Like No Man's Sky. When you put yourself into the category of a space exploration game, you're going to be compared to other space exploration games. I'm sorry if that feels unfair because this game doesn't keep up with this one, but you put yourself in that category.
Luke Fredericks super chatted $5. It's not about making BG3 again. It's about putting out a quality game with verifiable passion and innovation. It's about sending a message, lol.
Yeah, I think I get that, Luke. I just think, like, the whole point of the Baldur's Gate 3 comparisons and stuff is that when you put yourself into a genre that another game also occupies, you will be compared to it. You just will, especially when you're charging the same amount of money, like Drizzy's saying. A $70 game, I think it's fair to compare $70 games to each other when they're in the same subgenre. Like, that to me is not outrageous. You can say, oh, well, it wasn't trying to do this or trying to do that. I get it. But we can still acknowledge that this is inferior in this way compared to this other game. It might be superior in other ways, but we can just, like, let's stop beating around the bush and let's just be clear. Yeah, and Baldur's Gate was $10 cheaper, which is even more insane. Justin, going to do an in-depth critique of Starfield? Yeah. We're going to wait till the dust settles a little because people don't tend to watch those videos when they are fresh, when the game is fresh, because they don't want spoilers, understandably so. So we are going to try to be very, like, we're going to give it time. Get time for dust to settle, you know. Let's see. Breakhat23, thank you for becoming a member too. Ooh, welcome, welcome. Taylor, 3 months of support. That's crazy. Thank you, my friend. Wondering if you're feeling any Starfield discourse fatigue. It feels impossible to have a nuanced conversation with two camps so entrenched. Yeah, no, I'm kind of sick of it too. I'm kind of sick of it. It's just like, there's no nuanced discussion. It's like, you can, like the thing we were trying to talk about with technological issues, like the constant load screens in Starfield. You might not care about them, but there is no denying that that is grossly outdated compared to what other studios are doing right now and have been doing for years. Like, the game can still be good, you can still like the game, but let's not, like, put our heads in the sand. Like, the moment that you refuse to acknowledge something plainly obvious is the moment you lose all credibility in a discussion. If I'm talking to somebody, whether it's in chat or on the podcast, not saying Joe Raptor did this, but, like, if anybody is, I'm having a conversation with somebody and they refuse to acknowledge plainly visible tangible things in favor of like defending something else, to me, that's very bad faith. You know, it's a reflection of somebody refusing to acknowledge reality in favor of keeping their bubble secure, because it's okay to have a more nuanced view of these things. Like Starfield, very, in my own words, a very good game. I think it's a very good game. You can have a lot of fun with it. Far from a masterpiece, and it has a ton of serious issues that should be called out, so Bethesda's encouraged to fix it and make improvements. People complained about the weird facial animations in Fallout 4. Guess what they did? They fixed it. People complained about all sorts of weird things going on with like the dialogue not matching what was actually said with the voice protagonist. So guess what they did? They fixed it. Like, that's what they do. If you make a fuss about it, they will deal with it. But when you refuse to acknowledge plainly visible things like the constant load screens being distracting and harming immersion, that's never going to get fixed, because they're like, oh, our fans don't care. And that's exactly what happened. Todd, in all these interviews, he said, we didn't think it was worth the time and resources to develop these systems for seamless transitions from planet surface to space and back and forth. We just didn't think it was worth it. We don't think our players care. And in a way, they were right. Their players don't care, because even now they're making excuses for it. When 6-7 years ago is when open world games started to completely drop load screens between areas. Like, we're going on not just a generation ago. Last generation is when they started to do that. But this generation especially, the whole pitch was with these SSDs. We were going to get rid of load screens, and it was all going to be seamless for exploration. And that's why some people were saying that it felt like a step backwards, because for Bethesda, it was still a shuffle forward. But compared to what other AAA studios in open world games are doing, it is not on par. Like, they have not kept up. It just is what it is. And if you refuse to acknowledge that, you lose credibility in the discussion. And that's my point. It's like, you can tell a lot about somebody and their genuine, or how genuine they are, based on whether they're willing to acknowledge things that are uncomfortable given their current position. Even God of War was able to do load screens in a creative way. Yeah. Or like, what was, you guys will have to remind me, what was that? It's like an indie game made by like 3 or 4 people. That's a space sim. We looked at it a few months ago. That one also did seamless thing. It wasn't No Man's Sky. It was like a new thing. Brand new. I don't remember. Somebody's gonna say it. Again, it was like an indie game, but it's like new. I don't think it's out yet. Or it's in early access or something. Spaceborne 2? Oh wait, that might be it. Spaceborne 2. Yeah, this. Did you say this was made by one guy? Yeah, tens of thousands of diverse solar systems, planet surfaces, factions, diplomacy systems. It also has seamless planet to space transitions. Yeah, one guy. One guy, and he was able to figure out a way to do it seamlessly. Like, granted, all of this is basically just a clever way of covering up load screens. But like, you see this, he's able to take off and just start like flying over the planet. And this is what I mean when like you can tell a lot about somebody based on what they how they defend or don't defend things. It is not in my view even a question that Starfield would be better with the ability to load multiple tiles at the same time and to also be able to fly across the planet or use vehicles to do that. See what they did here is he did this
Robert
like
Connor super
white
chatted
blast, and that
$5.
covers the load screen.
I don't get why they couldn't do the action load screen with your ship going through the cloud. Ubisoft's Star Wars game looks like it does that.
Yeah, and that's what this is. See that little thing he just did with a little white blast? That was the load screen. But with Bethesda, they pull you out, make you stare at a screen capture, and that's it. And like that is way better for immersion than what we got, which was just straight up regular load screens. Like you can see this, it takes off. And again, it's seamless, it's smooth. It flies forward, and then they're going to cover up the load screen right here. You don't even really realize it's happening, but this is far better for sake of immersion, especially in a game where you're wanting people to get immersed, than having like the screen go black, pop up with the load screen, little spinny bar, and then transition into this. Like this is way more fluid. Like you can very easily just ask people like, okay, which is better? Option A, option B. Which is better, to have it go straight to a black load screen with a screen cap and then sit there for 5 seconds and then fade from black back into this? That's option A. Or this, option B, with it being a smooth transition where you're not pulled out of the game and the camera stays on the vehicle. It just goes like that. Or, you know, basically the same thing that God of War did, walking through, going to the world tree and then, you know, going to the next place. Which is better, option A, option B? Most people are going to say option B, if they're being honest. But if they're a hardcore fanboy, their brain doesn't want them to admit that because they know what that means. And so they start to dodge. And they have like a built-in safety mechanism where they can't acknowledge it. You know? Like they just can't accept it. And so they start to pivot. They start to dodge and shift and dodge and shift. Whereas if you were just like, if somebody came out and just said, honestly, oh, option B sounds better. I can at least take them more seriously, you know? Yeah, I did see that. Todd was asked on air why they didn't optimize Starfield, and he said, we did. You just need to upgrade your PC. And this is something I actually, maybe this will surprise people, I'll actually take Todd's side on this. I think Starfield is pretty well optimized, but while it definitely needs a lot of improvements, I do think that there are a lot of people who are running with pretty old hardware that are expecting to run the game as if they were running new hardware. Like, games continually increase how much they demand from computers, as you would kind of expect as time goes by. And so over time, games will get more and more demanding. It's why like Immortals of Avium requiring basically a 4090 for playable frames on ultra settings. I don't find that outrageous at all. I think that's kind of reasonable, that the top of the line graphics card is the only thing that can really run the top of the line settings that look ridiculously good. Whereas, you know, some of these other games, I think people have just become accustomed that, oh, I'll be able to run it at 120 frames on high settings. It's like, yeah, if the game came out 3-4 years ago, but now they're like pushing the boundaries, trying to get them more intensive. But again, it doesn't change the fact that I think that that's a nice little dodge of Todd's. Like, there were optimization issues and there were things like
Luke
DLSS
Frederick
being missing that don't make any
$5.
sense.
If the improvements to performance were achieved by modders in the span of like a week, that's a problem though.
I agree, Luke, and that's what's kind of baffling, is that AMD came out before the launch of Starfield and said there is no reason that they can't put DLSS in. We don't have an exclusive deal with them. So then everybody's like, well, then why isn't it in? DLSS is objectively, demonstrably better. DLSS 3 is way better than FSR 2. FSR 3 might end up being comparable, who knows, but it's not out yet as far as I'm aware. So it's just better. Why isn't it in the game? Especially because on the first day of early access, somebody created a mod introducing it. A single guy did it. Why couldn't Bethesda do it? I don't know. Yeah, I praise the oak. Yeah, I mean, yes. It only works on NVIDIA cards. Right. I agree. FSR works on consoles, which is why I think they prioritize the integration of that. However, like, it doesn't change the fact that a guy put it into the game in a day. And if there's no exclusive deal, there is literally no reason for it not to be in the game day one when NVIDIA dominates the graphics cards market on PC. It's not even close. Yeah, it's like 70% of the market on PC. So 70% of PC players are going to get an inferior experience when there's no reason they couldn't have a better experience with DLSS. Like, I don't get that. But I mean, it just reflects again, like the old school Bethesda mindset of we don't have to fix it because modders will. And that I think is the thing that I find particularly gross. Is just that they can, like, they have stuff that is clearly broken or not performing properly, and they just rely on modders fixing it. And I just think if any other company did that, that would be totally unacceptable. I mean, imagine if Apple started releasing a brand new iPhone where when you get it, you have to go and download a different type of software, inject it in, and then all of a sudden, like, the volume buttons work now, whereas before they didn't. Like, everybody would agree that was ridiculous. Like, that's insane. But when Bethesda does it while charging you $70, everybody's just rolling with it. Oh, well, it's just, you know, mods, whatever. Or just jailbreak it every time they update it, yeah. Speaking of jailbreak, did you guys see this? This is just funny. A Turkish crypto exchange CEO has been sentenced to 11,196 years in prison for stealing $2 billion in customer funds. Cheers. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Man, can we just take a minute, everybody? Shift gears. We can stop rambling about Starfield for a minute. Can we just appreciate that crypto bros have largely gone by the wayside? Can we just appreciate that? Like, it was everywhere for a while, and then it became like really, really cringe. And then they all shifted into NFTs because crypto kind of got boring, and then it also wasn't going to the moon anymore. And so they shifted to NFTs, and then NFTs imploded and went nowhere. And then all of those same people shifted and started getting into the AI stuff, and everything was about how ChatGPT is going to make your life better. And I don't know where they're going next because AI and ChatGPT is kind of calming down a little bit. People are like, okay, it's really cool. I don't know how it helps my day-to-day work, but yeah, it's cool. But let's just appreciate that, like, the NFT crypto bros are getting their comeuppance now. It's refreshing. Crypto elves are mounting. Yeah, it's just anytime somebody promises you a get-rich-quick scheme, they're lying to you. Okay, there's no such thing. The only way you can get rich very quickly is either with a lot of luck or taking insane levels of risk.
Constantine Doomy Trash super chatted $5.52.
Thank you,
I
Stefan.
hear Jim Sterling gave Starfield a 4/10. What's your take on that? Care to react?
Based on my recollections, I think Sterling has a history of giving games pretty, like, dramatic, shall we say, scores to kind of rage bait and get clout that way. I don't think it's the first time they've done this, so I wouldn't take it that seriously, frankly. I'm pretty sure there was another one, another game that they did something like this with. You know, the God of War creator, David Jaffe, said Starfield's the best game he's ever played. Yeah, but then he also has said, like, a bunch of other insane stuff that people now are just forgetting. Like, what was the other weird take he had recently? He had another take that, like, made him go viral where everybody lost their minds. What was it? I don't know why anybody is like, well, I think the game's good, and my defense of that is that this person said this. Like, the game can be good, but that's a really stupid reason to think the game's good, you know? Rango, sorry, hold on. Elder Scrolls 6 should have 0 load screens by this point. I mean, if they were keeping up with the industry, but I'd bet you money it'll have load screens between like cities and stuff like that. Because again, nobody is really like, their fans don't care. And that's cool, whatever. But if you think that right now the load screens are jarring, wait 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years, load screens from other AAA devs are going to be a thing of the past. Won't even be, in the same ballpark. Sorry, Nerdy Wolf. Yeah. Day 67. Yeah. Do you think Diablo 4 can do a 180 and be much better safe than now? Oh, I think I like for sure. I think Diablo 4 can pretty easily make a turnaround because these games have very, very long lifespans, but they've got to do a lot of work. And the thing is, it's really difficult to build cachet with your audience and to build cachet with your fans. And it's very, very easy to burn through it all in a moment. And that's what happened, is they burnt through it all. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a lot of work for them to win back the favor of players. Yeah, Drizzy, I can't speak on that because I've played Mirage at a preview event, but the embargo has not lifted yet, so I can't talk on that. But I will be able to speak on it in the future when that embargo lifts. Liza P, review copy yet? No. I'm waiting patiently. They have communicated that is going to happen. It doesn't come out till the 19th, so I personally would expect that we get it early next week. That's typically what I would expect. Okay, real quick, I just want to touch on this because we talked about this on stream the other day, and then we'll shift into like the other gaming things. From Mudahar, this matter should be resolved. Basically, critical update: YouTube has officially taken down Gideon's video exposing EDP445 for attempting to meet with another minor. It's full mask off. YouTube will silence anyone exposing pedos. How are bigger YouTubers and news outlets not covering this? I frankly don't know what terms of service thing this would violate, but my guess is that EDP started filing claims and stuff to get it taken down. This matter should be resolved. Gideon and several creators seem to have their videos covering EDP's latest sting currently striked by YouTube under their harassment policy. I haven't seen Rev's video, but based on Gideon and on Bird videos, I believe this may be a misstep. I hope YouTube allows constant policing of bad actors in the space and hopefully reverses these strikes. It seems like it's probably YouTube's like, we don't want vigilante justice. Stop trying to go after people yourselves. Let the cops handle it. But it doesn't change the fact that like they caught EDP meeting with or trying, or not meeting, speaking with an underage female again in very explicit ways. And he did this, like he's already done this. Like he did this a couple of years ago and barely got away. And now it seems like they're gonna try to get him off of it again. Like, it's just crazy to me. It's crazy. How EDP is still on the streets is crazy. EDP is like he's an old school YouTuber. He's somebody that like is, I think he got his start as like a football guy. Like he was really into football, so he made videos talking about football all the time. And so like I don't know how he grew, but he had like millions of subs on YouTube, and then he got caught trying to solicit a minor, and because it wasn't an official police investigation, he got off. Didn't have anything really happen except like YouTube channels deleted and stuff like that, which you would expect. But then they just caught him doing it again. But apparently they caught him outside of a dialysis center because he's like super sick. People were saying on stream the other day that apparently he has like stage 5 kidney failure or something. Like EDP is in rough shape. And then they just caught him doing this again. So it's insane. Let's shift into something fun. I was... Stage 5, it might be stage 4, I don't remember. I was about to do a really, really terrible segue. I was like, yeah, so EDP has been caught trying to meet with a kid again. And so hopefully he goes to jail. Speaking of kids, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. It's not as smooth a transition as I was hoping, but let's start this because I've wanted to talk about this for a minute because it sounds very interesting. It sounds like they're finally doing what we've been hoping they would do. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is apparently targeting 2024 as its release year. They have partnered with NVIDIA, and we've been talking for a while about this. The Switch's like biggest downfall is that on modern TVs that are larger than say 55 inches or 55 inches and up, plugging your Switch into it if you're sitting at a reasonable distance stretches that out. The 1080p upscaled or 1080p whatever it does to reach 1080p. I think it overclocks it technically, but it goes to 1080p. But that stretched over a big screen looks pretty rough compared to what we get with like the PS5, Series X, PC. 4K is the standard now, and so to see a 1080p thing blown up 65, 75, whatever inches, however big your display is a little jarring. Not to mention that it can only do that still at like 30 FPS, much less 60. So they've apparently partnered with NVIDIA and are working on introducing DLSS as part of this package, which is, I think it's brilliant. I think that is a no-brainer. Imagine like DLSS running on a Switch to be able to play something like Mario Kart at actual upscaled 4K. With DLSS tech, I mean, it would look like actual 4K. I think that's brilliant. Brilliant. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure that it has ample stock available on day one and to avoid the kind of shortages that have been seen with the PS5 and Series X. Whoops. Also, bear in mind, the Switch, when it launched, had terrible stock shortages. And we all, like, at the time, I remember there was a lot of, like, conspiracy theories going on where people were like, they might be intentionally shorting the inventory so that it hypes people up even more. And so it's artificial scarcity to make people think that it's more in demand than it is, to kind of create a buying frenzy. I don't think that's what was actually happening, especially as the dust has settled. It just seems like they weren't able to order enough of the micro processors that they need. But still, I mean, it's good to see that apparently they are going to try and start manufacturing probably early to middle of next year and then release in the second half of the year towards the holidays to make sure that they have plenty of inventory when people are looking for them. Stefan, that's hilarious. Although specific details on the console are being kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next-gen console would be able to be used in portable mode similar to the Switch. What exactly this looks like, we don't know, but apparently it is a hybrid console again. So it might just be a Switch 2. It might be kind of like the 3DS versus the DS. It might be something like that. It's not clear yet, but it does seem that it's going to be a mobile / dockable hybrid again. Two sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED in order to bring down costs, especially considering this increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. The current Switch comes with just 32 gigabytes of internal memory, while most current gen PlayStation and Xbox games are over 100. Yeah, just for one game, they're over 100. So I guess they're going to try to increase the storage. I can't imagine Nintendo goes to like 256 or 500. They probably bring like a 500 gig option and that's it. Or rather a 100 gig option and that's it. And then rely on microSD cards for expansion, I would assume. But if they're planning on bringing current gen games to the Switch, I don't know if that works. I think you have to have something even faster than microSD cards. MicroSD cards are actually pretty slow, which is why you can't just expand anything with that. I remember I saw a video, I think it was from Linus Tech Tips a while back, where they tried to use a microSD card as their like game storage for their PC. So they downloaded a bunch of Steam games onto it and tried to play them off of the microSD card, and it did not work at all. So I don't think that they could do that and expect to see current gen games come over, but we'll see. I'm sure they've thought of all of this. Let's see. It'll have physical games via a cartridge slot. I think that's great. I love the cartridges on the Switch. Other details such as backwards compatibility, support for Switch games, physical and digital, remains unclear. Nintendo has said that it wants to convert as many of the Switch's 100 million plus user base as possible to its next system, although some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles. It's true. I mean, you think about it, if you were to buy a Switch 2, but all of the games you bought on the Switch original run on it, you might not have that much push to go and buy stuff day one for your new console. Whereas it's like, oh, the Witcher 3 ported to the Switch 2 runs way better, but you have to buy it again. That to them would be much more lucrative, so we'll see what they do with it. Nintendo did not immediately respond to comment. Tokyo-based industry consultant Dr. Serkan Todo told VGC that a 2024 console launch would make sense for Nintendo since it's projected to see double-digit declines in Switch hardware and software sales this year after it cleared 7 years in the market, which is insane. I mean, next year in March, it'll be 7 years since the Switch came out, which makes me feel ancient. That's crazy. But, I mean, yeah, it's 7 years since it came out. In March. That's a good lifespan for something like this, but it also means that they need to figure out what's next. I would generally say that looking at Nintendo's financials, it seems clear that it's time for a new piece of hardware in 2024. Hardware is already projected to fall 16.5% year on year in the current fiscal, while the minus for software is expected to hit 15.9. And this is also just something like many of us, I think, can probably attest to this. Like, I haven't touched my Switch in a minute. I mean, it's since Tears of the Kingdom, but I played a bunch of Tears of the Kingdom, and then I started to kind of feel burnt out. So I shifted and started playing on my ROG Ally and playing Baldur's Gate and stuff on that. No need to really boot up the Switch anymore. So I haven't touched my Switch in a minute. And prior to that, it had been months and months and months since I had played on my Switch. And that means that players aren't on the eShop. They're not engaging with it constantly, so they have very little reason to spend money actively on it. And then also when consoles reach the end of their lifespans, usually they are pretty outdated, so they aren't keeping up with current games that people want to play. And also, everybody's kind of braced for the new things, so they don't want to get even more entrenched in this generation because they know the next one's coming. So it's just a stack on stack on stack of a bunch of stuff that encourages these companies to release whatever is next. And that seems to be whatever the Switch 2 is. Yeah, if they're targeting a Q4 release next year, I'd expect the company to have multiple games ready to go for launch. I mean, this is interesting. By the time holiday period arrived in 2017, they had Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, Mario Kart. That's a no-brainer. I mean, I think personally, and I guess in chat, let me know what you think. What do you think the launch games are for the Switch 2? I would guess a new Mario Kart game. I'm guessing probably a new Mario, all on launch. Or like, you know, Mario on launch day and then Mario Kart a month later or 2 weeks later or something. They probably port the Hogwarts Legacy day one. I think that's an easy grab. People are going to lose it for that. Oh, Chris, interesting. You think they remaster Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? That could be interesting. I could see that. Especially like improved graphics, higher resolutions and frame rates. That could be interesting. That could be cool. Yeah, I mean, there's lots. They probably bring some third-party stuff. Yeah, they could bring a handful of things to it. The Mario Rabbids game, I think that's an easy one. Wind Waker remaster? Oh, I could see that. I could see that. Mario Party. Yeah, I think that they could... Cyberpunk. I think they could bring a lot of these. Oh, Skyrim probably unironically will be there. I think they can bring a lot of these probably day one comfortably. There were rumors and leaks that they had brought early prototypes of the Switch 2 to Gamescom. And they were showing some select developers the hardware, and that some of them have dev kits. So apparently it's already out there with devs. And if that's true, I mean, they're trying very hard to avoid the problem the Switch had, which was that there was Breath of the Wild and not much else on launch day. And then it took like 6 months to a year for there to be enough games to really justify having a Switch. And then it was just a flood of every third-party studio was creating stuff, and it was just everywhere. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think that they're going to try very hard to avoid those mistakes that they made initially, because there were some weird mistakes. The biggest thing is inventory. I mean, if they can avoid having those big mistakes, I think they're set. Okay. Can't wait for 35 FPS. You're damn right. But I mean, apparently in these rumors and leaks, they're saying that they can achieve graphical fidelity roughly on par with the Series X and PS5 by way of upscaling. I mean, I don't know how much I believe that, but upscaling is crazy cool. They're not going to be ray tracing or anything on this, but I think it's very reasonable to expect that we could see like Cyberpunk unironically running on the Switch 2, probably at like 720p or at 540p upscaled. Like, I don't think that's that outrageous. Should I get a Steam Deck or a Switch? Get an ROG Ally. The ROG Ally, more powerful, like twice as powerful as the Steam Deck, because it's a Windows device. It installs things way more easily. You can play whatever you want on it. You're not limited to just Steam's catalog. The Legion Go, I don't think the Legion Go has pricing or launch date announced yet, does it? The Ally does have quality control issues. That is absolutely true. But just get it, try it, and then return it if it's giving you problems. November for the Legion? Okay. We'll check that out. I need to sell my Steam Deck. I just haven't used it since I got the Ally. I just have no reason to. Let's see. They dropped a new trailer also for Lies of P. What we got here? This is the ARM upgrade showcase. So this one allows you to plant mines, basically. That's interesting. The Aegis. It's like a little shield. Looks like the God of War shield. That's funny. There's a lot of customization in this. It's crazy. Yeah, please don't suck. Please don't suck. Oh. It's a straight up cannon. Yeah, I really hope this doesn't suck. It looks so good. The demo was really, really good. The Puppet String, which is also just a tremendous game. Or name. I think it's a wrench. Love it. Now that's a monkey wrench right there. The Fulminous. We'll stun. Oh, so if you're close, it actually charges up and stuns them at the same time. The Flameberg. It looks cool. The sound effect is a little underwhelming. It's just like a gentle... Oh. Pandemonium. What does that do? Oh, is it just like a status effect? Oh, you can do a long throw or a wide throw. Yeah. It's just like a poison spill. Yeah, I imagine there's going to be a lot of boss fights that are like super tough. And then if you have the right arm equipped, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty straightforward. There's going to be a lot of stuff like that. That's awesome. Yeah, there's music in the game. There's music in the game, but these are just showcases showing mechanics and stuff, so makes sense. Appreciate you, Saul. Thank you. What are your thoughts on Lord of the Fallen in terms of gameplay? I'd probably play it after Lies of P. Lies of PP. I think it looks good, honestly. I think it looks good. Young also says it keeps getting worse for Skull and Bones. He says they just lost their third director. If this is true, this is insane. Like, if that's, I mean, we'll see. Wait, did Young get sponsored by Baldur's Gate?
With a wide variety. I kind of want to get the sponsor of today's video out of the way because it is such a contrast to the game that I'm about to talk about, or at least how I think this game that I'm about to talk about will turn out. Baldur's Gate 3 was kind enough to sponsor today's video, and to me, that was a no-brainer. One of the best games I've played this year, and easily one of my favorite games ever.
This is so funny to me. Like, I'm glad that they're sponsoring people. I'm like, who hasn't heard of Baldur's Gate so far? You know, like, especially in Young's audience, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they have a reason for doing it. I'm sure they have a reason, but like in my experience, usually they pay, like, sponsors pay because like they want to introduce their game to a new audience and they think that your audience hasn't been exposed to their game before. And I think that makes sense. But like for somebody like Young who covers AAA stuff all the time, that's just surprising to me. Interesting. Let's see. We'll all be Skull and Bones by the time it releases. Yeah, I guess. Let's see how bad it is.
Skull and Bones, which, look, the game isn't out yet, so I don't want to fully judge until I get my hands on the game, but it's safe to say that the game is just not looking good. Its development cycle is as troubled as it can get. And usually when there is a troubled development cycle like that, and combined with the fact that the gameplay they've shown has been nothing all that impressive, I think it's a safe prediction, though not a 100% sure one, that Skull and Bones, I feel like it'll end up flopping at launch. And it's gone through a lot. I mean, this is a game whose development started all the way back in 2013, so it's been over a decade now. And scrolling down here, we have a Kotaku article from July 2021 that kind of documents its troubled development.
Yeah, we've gone through that article at length. I think the most recent gameplay footage actually looks pretty good, but my stance is that I don't know how they overcome the negative reputation that they have. Like, even if the game ends up coming out and being pretty good, it has such an albatross around its neck. I don't know how it takes any sort of significant stand in the market.
Noting how the development began back in 2013. It was supposed to be an expansion to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Then it became an MMO-like spin-off, but then that transformed once again.
We'll just skip to the end of that article because we've been through all of that.
game, no matter what the development troubles may be. And so the end result is a project that has been delayed time and again. By May of 2021, the game had been delayed a 4th time. And then on September 28th, 2022, Skull and Bones would be delayed yet again. That would mark the 5th time the game would get delayed, as reported here by IGN. When the game was first announced back in E3 2017, the game was set to come out in fall of 2018. That's 5 years ago, but then the first delay happened when they...
Yeah, just remember, like, this was originally scheduled to come out alongside Red Dead Redemption 2. That's how long ago we're talking. Okay. It's been a while. We've been through all these articles. These are all like multiple years old.
With few innovations, fetch quests, a lot of fetch quests, and a lot of microtransactions. Yay. To make matters worse, Ubisoft would delay Skull and Bones for a 6th time on January 11th, 2023. This is a press release for investors where Ubisoft said, "We have decided to postpone its release in order to have more time to showcase a much more polished and balanced experience and to build awareness. Skull and Bones will now be released in early 2023 to 2000."
I can understand that. I think if they had shoved the game out in January, let's say, or in February or whatever, I think it would have just been immediately buried. And they're at least trying to recover a little bit of their investment. And the most recent showcase that they had was actually pretty well received. Let's be honest. Like, they actually did get some positive reception from IGN, from GameSpot. A lot of people who played that playtest and beta actually had pretty good things to say about it. So they might actually be able to dig themselves out a little bit. I don't know if they'll, turn a profit on this. I highly doubt that. But at the very least, they might get some people to play it and enjoy the game, which, of course, like, I would support that. I don't want people, like, I don't want games to flop. I want as many good games as possible and as few bad games as possible. And if there's more good games out there for people to play, awesome. I'm happy. So I hope that they, surprise everybody, and this ends up being a really cool sort of Dead Island 2 situation. I would love to see that.
2024. This would then be announced to the general public via the following tweet published on January 12th, 2023, where they said that today we'd like to share an update regarding our release date as we made the decision to delay Skull and Bones a little more. Now, not long ago, they did host a closed beta for the game starting August 25th, 2023 and ending in August 28th, 2023. So there is a game here that will ship at some point. There is a playable version of this, but unfortunately feedback has been mixed. While outlets like IGN had an optimistic outlook based on what little they played, stating that I'm more excited to dive into the full experience than I was even way back.
I also use this this Chrome plugin that Yang uses for the highlights. He goes pretty hard with it though. I mean, this is some aggressive highlighting. He was that guy in high school or college that just had like the kit of highlighters that he sets up and then goes and highlights every third word. Girls in high school, yeah. Well, my one guy I knew, he had a really interesting way. He would underline sections with a pencil, and then he would bracket sections which had a different meaning, and then he would underline, well, overline, I guess. He'd overline text which had another meaning. So when he was going through his notes, he just used a pencil to do all of it, but based on how he underlined, bracketed, or overlined the text, that had a different meaning to him. So it was like a different color of highlight, which I thought was really, really cool. I've never seen anyone else do that.
E3 all those years ago. You got other outlets like Yahoo News Singapore contributor Aloysius Lowe stating that he felt terribly bored by the game, with much of the beta boiling down to blowing up ships or quietly sailing for long stretches of time while little happened. Now, this is where things somehow get even worse for Skull and Bones, with Kotaku reporting yesterday, September 6, 2023, that Skull and Bones has lost yet another creative director, referring to none other than Elizabeth Pellin, who I mentioned before was the 3rd creative director on this project, which means that the game is now on its 4th creative director, which is completely unprecedented, which doesn't speak to a game that will really have a strong and cohesive vision. According to Kotaku's report here, Elizabeth Pellin began working with the Skull and Bones team all the way back in 2018, so 5 years ago, left Ubisoft Singapore to return to the French publisher's Paris headquarters earlier this summer. She was the creative director who oversaw the game's transition and shift in direction from a primarily session-based multiplayer ship combat shooter to a broader exploration and survival-oriented piracy sim that drew loose inspiration from games like Rust and Ark Survival Evolved. Now, a Ubisoft spokesperson tried to do damage control and tried to make this all look not as bad as it seems, stating that 5 years ago, Elizabeth Pellin went to Ubisoft Singapore with a mission to reboot the creative direction of Skull and Bones. She succeeded, and the Skull and Bones team is now fulfilling her vision to deliver a unique naval action RPG experience to our players. And Ubisoft assured that at this stage in the game's development, it's not uncommon for a creative director to move on to a new project or role, trying to make...
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, my understanding is that most games have one creative director until they release. That's been my understanding. I mean, there can be people that are like consultants on the project. There can be co-directors, there can be gameplay directors and narrative directors. There's stuff like that that happens all the time. Or like with Armored Core 6, like there was the example where Hidetaka Miyazaki, he worked with them during pre-production, and then when the game started full development, he left and started working on like Elden Ring and Elden Ring's DLC and stuff. So there are cases where I think people directly involved in the development of a game will leave, but it's, especially for a game that's gone through so many creative directors, it definitely seems odd that they're losing another one. That to me seems concerning.
Make it seem like the optics look worse than what the actual situation is, but when Kotaku reached out to their own sources within Ubisoft, two sources familiar with the situation told Kotaku that Palant's tenure at Ubisoft Singapore had been expected to last at least through the end of the year.
So people that they spoke to within the studio said that they thought she was staying to the end of the year, presumably through the launch, because I would assume this thing gets shoved out late this year, early next year. Yeah, I mean, like, let's try to be like as generous as we can. Maybe she has stuff in her personal life where she wanted to get back to where she's from, and she just was sick and tired of living in Singapore. She wanted to move back to Paris. Maybe that's it. It's still really weird. I mean, especially this thing you've been working on for years and years and years, and then you're going to bail right before the game comes out. Like, again, it's just weird. The whole thing is weird. Maybe the game's still good, but it's weird.
So her tenure ended early. This to me doesn't seem like a normal part of a healthy game development cycle. This looks like yet more signals that there are a lot of red flags surrounding the development history of what has been a very troubled title since the beginning, since a decade ago. And despite delay after delay after delay after delay after delay after delay for Skull and Bones, apparently there's still no internal release date according to Kotaku based on what they learned from their sources. Like, that's crazy. Ubisoft still does not have a target release window or an exact release date for this game. They used to when they announced a release date, but then backtracked on that and delayed the game numerous times since then. But as of right now, as of the recording of this video, Ubisoft have no clue when this game will ship. It just speaks further to a project that continues to be woefully mismanaged and that it's not coming quite together. And frankly, I don't know if it ever will. When the game does ship, you know, it's probably gonna be felt that the game's development was all over the place. But Ubisoft promised that they have every intention to deliver what they're calling a quadruple A blockbuster. Wow, quadruple A. Skull and Bones will seemingly transcend the likes of Zelda Tears of...
I mean, considering the budget that they've spent on it, I think that's probably accurate. I mean, they've spent more money on this game than most games you've probably played this year. It's far from saying it's going to be good, but I mean, they've spent a lot on it.
Kingdom, which is only 3 A's instead of 4, the likes of Baldur's Gate 3, among many other renowned games that came out this year and years prior. They intend to deliver on their quadruple A blockbuster before the end of its fiscal year in March 2024, but they've delayed this game so many times after seeming so assured about this time.
Hold on, I'm sorry. This is like this is a total like non sequitur. It's totally unrelated. I'm sorry. I just noticed this. This is like
them
gonna bug me. Where's Young's ears? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like where the ear cups are?
Release date for real.
Like, it seems like if we perform an experiment, like the ear cups for the headphones are right here. So are his ears like right here? Is that where his ears are? Don't those seem like really low? Maybe not. I thought they'd be like up here. They're just, maybe they're sitting really low on his head, or the cups go up higher. I can't really tell, but it seems like these are sitting like down on his neck. Is he an AI? Is Yang an AI? Is it Yang out? It's a camera angle. Yeah, I mean, well, like I'm trying to. It's like, it just looks like the headphones are down lower. See what I mean? Yang might be a robot. Yang might be a robot. You can see the lower part of his earlobe. Where? Like sticking out? Like that? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. The more I look at it, the more I'm gonna lose my mind. I just he has his head slightly tilted. He might just I think they're just sitting low. I think that's what it is. But I notice it now. It's like all I can look at. I'm sorry.
It's hard to trust that more development issues won't arise and that the game won't be delayed yet again. Like, some people are like, this game is just never coming out. I mean, it's obligated to come out, but you know, this is such a wild card when it comes to a release date because the game has been delayed so many times. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with developers delaying their games to ensure that the game is feature complete and polished, but when a game just continuously doesn't seem to know its release date and keeps giving us windows before delaying, it speaks to a giant red flag that says that you should probably...
Oh wait, what did you? Yeah, sorry, Luke. It's ADHD mixed with OCD mixed with me just randomly getting distracted and lacking focus in general. What is this, Leo? Hold on, this chat's catching up. Come on, chat. There we go. Oh, this is... Yeah, I think his ears are fine. Like, it's not like he has neck ears or anything. It's not like he has gills. I just think like his headphones sit really low. I think he just keeps his headphones low. They might be on ear instead of over ear, which is why it's also throwing me off because they kind of look like over ear. But I'm sorry, this is like a total diatribe. Headphones are big. Yeah, I don't know. He has them adjusted really, really low.
Not pre-order this game. I mean, you shouldn't pre-order period with any game, but...
In case it goes without saying, Jacob, I mean, or doesn't go without saying, we don't have to turn this into a stream clip. It's okay. I'm going to be doing my own video on Skull and Bones that we had on the schedule anyway, so I'll just do that.
Especially this one, be wary of trying to get in early on this. You should probably wait until reviews come out because all the red flags are here. This is on top of the fact that at the Ubisoft Singapore studio where Skull and Bones is being developed, there have been complaints about how Skull and Bones development hell has been accompanied by broader concerns around workplace treatment, equality, and pay, which is culminating in people wanting to unionize and trying to organize something to try to essentially have a seat at the table to be able to seek protections for employees who are not happy with their working environment. As Kotaku reports here, this all culminated in a ballot exercise by the country's creative media and publishing union, who has been soliciting support from developers there via flyers at lunchtime. A spokesperson for Ubisoft said this, provided the following comment to Kotaku when asked about the situation. At the request of the Creative Media and Publishing Union, a branch of Singapore's National Trade Union Congress, a ballot exercise is being conducted this week among eligible team members in the studio to determine whether formal recognition should be granted. Ubisoft, of course, wants to give off the impression that they're open-minded about all of this, but no corporation really likes to give employees power or the idea of employees having power or any sort of say, any sort of seat at the table. This is very much a PR statement. Ubisoft will likely be doing everything in their power to try to ensure that this union does not have negotiating prowess to give employees the ability to negotiate for better working conditions, better pay, and better hours. But again, to save face, Ubisoft...
Yeah, this is just I think a surefire way of giving Ubisoft an excuse to shut down the studio after Skull and Bones comes out, which honestly I don't think surprises anybody because they probably were going to do it regardless because Singapore has had so much trouble with this. They've done good tech on the Assassin's Creed stuff, but they just for whatever reason can't seem to get their own game out. It's weird.
Is saying that they believe in the importance of listening to our employees and fostering an open dialogue, and we believe that we have appropriate mechanisms and initiatives in place to continue creating a great workplace. Ubisoft Singapore was voted by employees as a great place to work in 2022, and will continue to engage with our team members to gather their feedback and work together to create a workplace where everyone can thrive. Well, obviously there's trouble in paradise, and you pointing out...
Ah, jeez.
Crisco super chatted $5. Hey Luke. Have you checked out the Switch 2 leaks? Also, we may have a new DK game announcement at the next Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, well, we did look at the Switch 2 leaks earlier in the stream, so yes to that. Donkey Kong game announcement at the next Nintendo Direct, that would be super cool. How long has it been? It's been a minute. So, I mean, I think that's super cool. Vixie, thank you. Thank you. My little brother loves FNAF, so I always wear this whenever I'm gonna see him.
Some self-appointed award from 2022. Like, that doesn't assuage concerns that have cropped up recently, especially given just the development hell.
Assuage? Hold on.
2022. Like, that doesn't assuage concerns.
Is that how it's pronounced? Have I been saying it wrong this whole time? Oh no. I thought it was assuage. Come on. Oh my god, Google is struggling today. Okay, okay, here.
Assuage.
Assuage. Okay, I am right.
Assuage.
Assuage. Not assuage. Sorry, Young.
Concerns in paradise, and you pointing out some self-appointed award from 2022. Like, that doesn't assuage concern.
Assuage. Sorry, everybody. I'm such a bitch. I'm such a douchebag.
That have cropped up recently, especially given just the development hell that employees have had to suffer through with Skull and Bones. I mean, it must be painful to work on something for so long, knowing that you're working towards a game that probably won't end up impressing a lot of people, that has gone through so many iterations, and that seems like just a tunnel with no light at the end. And when that light comes at the end of the tunnel, Skull and Bones will likely be remembered for all the wrong reasons. And I hope the game can prove me wrong. I hope that they can make all these years of development and all the hell that the developers went through somehow worthwhile. But when a game goes through this much of a rough patch throughout the course of a decade, it seldom tends to end in good results. And it'd be one thing if the gameplay shown throughout the years just created a sense of optimism and a sense of like really great potential. But this game, you know, the more I see of gameplay, the more I get the sense that just the conceptualization of this game and its execution were a mistake, and that this game should really not exist, and that they should have stayed a Black Flag DLC rather than its own full-fledged game. Because the pirate sim aspect just feels so weak, and it's so focused on ships and the sort of pirate simulation aspect where you get to kind of walk around with boots on the ground and engage with ships as a pirate as well as a ship. That stuff just isn't as substantial and as present as it should be. The experience just looks half-baked, and I feel like if you want this kind of experience, just play Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That feels like a more fully fleshed out version of Skull and Bones. Like, Skull and Bones will really have to surprise us in terms of depths of mechanic and its progression loop and the way it rewards players and its mission design.
Yeah, I mean, it's fighting an uphill battle for sure. There's no doubt about that, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's just a classic example of a game that was initially ideated based on the success of another title, and they never really knew what it was supposed to be other than something similar to that thing that was successful, and that's just not that inspiring to a team of developers. I mean, you need vision, and apparently nobody on the creative side of it had enough of a vision to want to stick it out to the end, and that's why they're now on their 4th creative director, which is insane. Young not turning his head isn't assuaging my uneasiness with his headphone placement. I know, right? I know. It is funny. Young does do that a lot, where like it's kind of endearing. Maddie does it too, and I'm sure I've done it plenty. But he will slightly mispronounce things, and it's never like just, oh, he just misread it, or it's just an honest like one time when I was in I think it was high school, we did the thing where like in class we all read a paragraph of the chapter of the book we were reading, and we go around the whole classroom in a circle and everybody reads a paragraph. And at one point I was up to read, and it was like, blah, 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 said Madame Tussaud or whatever. And it wasn't about a wax museum, but it came to me, and I pronounced it Madame because it was Madame. So I was like, Madame Tussaud. And like everybody broke into laughter. I didn't really know why until the lit teacher was like, Luke, it's not Madame, it's Madame, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. But what Young and Maddie do is that they'll mispronounce things, but in a way that makes it sound fancier, and it's really funny. Like assuage. It's a swage. Like assuage makes it sound like it's cool in French, but mirage, yeah. Or like when a kind of distant friend of ours found out Lachlan's name, she was like, oh, what's like the name from? And we're like, well, it's kind of a play on the Scottish name. And she's like, oh, because of Loch. So, Lachlan, how are you? Did this weird, like, guttural thing. This lady's from Nebraska, okay? She's not Scottish, but she's like, oh, it's so good to see you, Lachlan. It was really uncomfortable. But it was like, it made her feel fancy that she could pronounce it in this fancy way. The other thing that always bugged me about, and then I'll shut up, but the other thing that Maddie used to do, he stopped doing it, but he used to go and mix up A and AN, the article before a word that ties together a sentence, because like in the English language, if like the next word starts with a vowel, it's AN, like an exciting time to be alive. It's not or a exciting time to be alive, because it's 2 vowels back to back. It doesn't hit the ear right, and that's why it doesn't work that way. But it is a if the next word starts with a consonant. So a third director. It wouldn't be an third director, right? But Maddie used to all the time in his videos back in like the 2015, 2016 era around Fallout 4. he used to always mix them up and say like, and this is a great time to be playing an game like Fallout 4. Or he would say like, I'm really excited for a exciting game like this. And it always like drove me crazy. I get it. English doesn't make any sense. The whole thing is insane. But my ear, it's probably like a little bit of OCD. My ear, when it hears certain things like that, if it hits it weird, it's all I can think about then. And my brain checks out. I'm like an actual grammar cop. Yeah, it's a problem. Don't let us dissuage you. Jesus. Oh man. My grammatical pet peeve is blank and I/me. It isn't always I 100% of the time. When in doubt, take the other part out of the sentence and see if it still makes sense. Yeah. So if you're saying like me and Nikki went to the zoo, that doesn't work. Because if you took that out, it would be me went to the zoo. And that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound right, right? So that's not it. It would be Nikki and I went to the zoo. Because if you take Nikki and out of it, it's just I went to the zoo. And then it works, you know? But yeah, it's the whole thing. Like, I find English fascinating and beautiful when it works and when it clicks together and when the rules are followed. I can't stand it when people just like casually break the rules of the language, because to me it's like it triggers me. To me it's like, no, we're all talking under these rules, following the same guidelines and procedures. We all have to play by the same rules, okay? You know, it's just, this whole thing. Luke should be an English teacher. I don't have the patience. I'm not a very good writer at all. But these little things, when they hit my ear, bother the crap out of me. The chat and me don't care. Oh, well done, 53 Nights. That's good. That was good. So this one, I just wanted to show you this. So this guy, Altair Stealth, he made his Dream AC game using mods. I've never tried modding Assassin's Creed games, I think, at all. But maybe I should. Look at this. So they went in and like are modding out the lighting systems. Like swapping out outfits. Like, this is pretty comprehensive. Yeah, he says one of his dream games is an AC game set in the late 1900s or like in the 1940s. So that's what he's trying to build. Oh, this mod lets him change the time of day in Unity with the press of a button. I do think like a World War II Assassin's Creed game would be really interesting. Oh yeah, it changed out all of their uniforms, everything. That's pretty cool. Maybe we should try modding it. I've never tried modding stuff. But man, it just makes me feel so bad that Unity was such a pile of garbage. Because it could have been so good. It could have been so good. There's World War II segment in Syndicate, and there's a World War I section in Unity. In case like you haven't seen it, AC Unity World War I. You climb the Eiffel Tower. No, this is Syndicate. Hold on, I pulled up the wrong one. Please hold. Please hold. Please hold. It's this one, I think. Yeah. Or it's World War II in Unity. It's World War I in Syndicate. I think I said it backwards before. Like, you're telling me this wouldn't be cool? Like, come on. Maybe they plan to do it. I don't think they did. I think out of all the leaks and everything we've seen, it was never on the schedule. So maybe it had been like discussed. Oh, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll try it. But I don't think it was ever in the works. I think it was just like this was their little experimentation, maybe to see if it fit thematically. And it does. I mean, look at that. Imagine exploring occupied Paris or something. And dude, these are the segments. Like this was when AC was at its best, when they were doing the really cinematic stuff with some scripted big budget set pieces. Now they just, I mean, this is so foreign to what we got with like Valhalla. It's not even close. AC Unige. Now this would assuage my concerns for Assassin's Creed if we got this game. Now this is pod racing. Yeah, I mean, it's so heartbreaking that we never got to see anything like this. Look at those draw distances, though. Oh, baby. Look at that. Look at that. Oh. You can also totally tell, I remember in this sequence, you can totally tell that the machine guns were like a quick thing they threw together because they feel like crap. They do not play well at all. Rango, thank you. It's gonna read it. Hold on.
Rango super chatted $5. Ever played the Saboteur game? Super fun, like GTA mixed with AC in occupied Paris. One of my favorite games of all time.
Oh man. Oh man, you know what? You know what? Where is it? Hold on, I typed it in wrong. The Saboteur is actually something I've done a video on a year ago. Sponsored by Squarespace. I'm a huge this was October 21st, 2021. So going on 2 years ago. I have been for a long time. At this point, over half. Oh, this, I tried swapping my camera to 4K. That's what this is. I haven't seen this video in a minute.
Getting into a mold, they have a formula that they follow. Everything is very cut and paste, drag and drop, even across titles. Once I started thinking about what they could do differently, what they could bring to the table to spark some sort of excitement within the fan base, I was taken back to a game that I played back in high school while waiting for the inevitable launch of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. You know how it is. You're really excited for the launch of a new game. In this case, I was excited for Black Flag, but it was still 6 or so months away, and I had the itch. I had the Assassin's Creed itch. I needed to scratch it with something. So I started asking my friends, and one of them recommended to me a game that had released a few years before.
Oh, dude, I forgot about this. I spent so much time. This is so funny. We just watched a Young video. I spent so much time motion tracking in After Effects to do this effect you're about to see, because the initial like intro sequence takes place in a building for ladies of the night. Okay. A Moulin Rouge. Okay. And as a result, it's pretty graphic. So I had to cover up the graphic parts to make sure the video didn't get taken down.
Called the Saboteur, and it immediately.
Let me just play this at regular speed, okay? In case you guys haven't seen this, you're about to lose it, because I spent so much time trying to do this, and we just watched a Young video. I don't even remember why I did this. I just thought it was funny.
Immediately struck me with its art style, the gameplay, the world design, and the boobs. Yes, there are boobs in this game. You actually basically...
I don't know why I spent so much time tracking Yong's face onto a couple of titties, but
yes, there are.
I thought it was funny. I'm not, you know what? We've evolved. We've changed. But yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that. This was at the period where I put just a ton of stuff in these videos making fun of Yong. And I think it was because after Cyberpunk, I was kind of like frustrated with him. So I just decided to make a lot of fun of him for that. But, you know, it's just, it's funny.
Before they went defunct on November 17th of 2009. If you want to get angry, let me spin a little tale for you real quick. Basically, what
I must have been sick because my voice is like super kind of back here.
What happened is the Saboteur was set to launch in December 8th specifically of 2009. The team was really excited for it. They were doing finishing touches, polishing it up, all of that good stuff. And then the studio director got a call from an executive at EA, their parent company, who informed the studio director that every single person, all 230 of the team, were losing their jobs effective immediately. It's not really clear what happened or why it went this way, why it was so urgent that they shut everything down. But what we do know is that 228 employees were laid off and fired. A small team of around 20 to 30 people was splintered off into different studios, specifically in Los Angeles, and they were to oversee the launch of the Saboteur in the following weeks. But the core team was done. They were just gone. But setting all of that aside nicely, the Saboteur still needed to launch. And on December 8th of 2009, it did for Xbox 360, PS3, PC, and there was an iOS version mixed with a BlackBerry version that was horrifically received. It was an awful, like mobile game, but like a 2009 mobile game. So basically Pong. So we're not going to address that in this video, but for the record, it did exist. And the game itself is pretty interesting. It's set in 1940 and we play as Sean Devlin, who is a bombastic...
Yeah. Anyway, all this to say, I really like the Saboteur. It's another one of these heartbreaking games that I think had a lot of potential, but just was totally screwed over by the tight timelines and everything. It's just really too bad, frankly. Pandemic has lost track. Yeah. Well, I'm worried Volition's going to be one of those. We're going to look back and be like, oh my God, Volition's gone. So, yep, sure is. Dead and gone, baby. Dead and gone. If they brought them back and like redid some of their IP, that would assuage my concerns, but I don't know if we're gonna get that ever. Oh man. Oh yeah, James Stephanie Sterling just gave Starfield a 4 out of 10. They are about to get some serious heat once the review hits meta. Okay, what do they say specifically? If you're the kind of person who thinks video games peaked with Fallout 3's launch version and they've required neither evolution nor improvement since this game is absolutely for you, if you believe Bethesda doesn't need to exhibit growth as an artistic outlet and hasn't had to change a thing about the way it's made games since 2008, I can safely say that you'll adore Starfield because it's all that a Bethesda game has always been, and literally nothing more. Starfield is a shallow ocean hiding its lack of creative ambition behind the physical side of a universe that's minuscule where it counts. In short, it's everything a fan of these games could love. Oh, dude. That's pretty hardcore. That's pretty hardcore. That's gonna piss off some people right there. Oh yeah, Tears of the Kingdom also gave it a 7. Yeah. Thank you for the 5 Australian dollars. Young, yeah, pissed me off too after the Cyberpunk ordeal. The way he acted and backpedaled has left a bad taste in my mouth up until today. Yeah, it was just, I think my general thing with Young is I think he is really good at identifying the waves that are coming in to the beach of the gaming industry, and he's good at surfing on those waves. But every once in a while he makes an oopsie and it looks like a wave is cresting when it's not. And so he'll start to like hate on a game that all of a sudden becomes beloved, or he'll start to love on a game that becomes hated because it was like pitched based on lies, like Cyberpunk or whatever. And when all you do is ride waves in the industry or in this type of game, when we're making videos and sharing our opinions and stuff, when all you do is ride waves, you shouldn't be surprised when you never make any yourself. And so I just think that's why, like, people go to his videos for him to talk about a news topic, but they're mainly there for the news topic. Very few people I've encountered are going for Yong's commentary on the news. And as long as he's good with that, I mean, more power to him. He's basically a news anchor in that respect. But you know, it's clear that his dream is not to just keep doing this forever. He wants to be a well-known voice actor, and that's where he's putting his passion, and he's getting a good bag. You know, with his view counts, he easily, you know, makes like, I mean, he makes very good money. I'll just say that he makes very, very good money, and then he also gets to do voice acting stuff. So he's living the dream. And, you know, even if he doesn't love doing the news videos, at the very least, doing the voice acting stuff, that should assuage all concerns he has. Because, you know, he gets his bag and gets to do what he wants. And if that won't assuage your concerns, I don't know what will. Let's see. What was this? The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is indeed a game with two faces, one welcoming and the other viciously hostile. While it features a wealth of content, brilliant innovation, and genuine incentives to play with its toys, the specter of its predecessor's pernicious encroachment on fun is dispiriting in its ubiquity. The neat new tricks this sequel pulls simply aren't enough to make Hyrule's realm of brittle weapons, slippery surfaces, and tedious chores any more welcoming. Okay. That one I think is, you know, I can see that. I think for like Starfield though, it's clear that if you are looking for Bethesda to make modern games that achieve modern standards of graphics, of exploration features, of technological features, like, they just are not going to do that. And so if you hold them and their feet to the fire to the same standard you're holding every other AAA studio, yeah, it's gonna be a 4 out of 10. Whether or not that's fair is of course up to the individual to decide. I think most people would say, well, as long as the game's fun, who cares if it feels outdated? That was like that was Joel Raptor's position on the podcast, as I understood it, was, yeah, it's outdated, but who cares, because the game is really fun. Cool. But I still think that we should agree that it's outdated, and that we should encourage them and push them to do things bigger and better, you know. But if anybody thinks that this 4 out of 10 is like not at least partially meant to rage bait, I don't know how to help you. Like, clearly this is meant to rage bait and to get people to do what we're doing now. Click on it, read the story, give them engagement, because it's such an outrageous rating, right? Like, that's what this is, you know. that's what this is. It's a primary reason I don't like Elon's new Twitter. Yeah, I think it was a really cool idea to be able to pay creators on Twitter, but there is no distinguishing between rage baited, like hate content that's just meant to drive engagement for payouts, and like actual quality content. But to be fair, the same thing is true of YouTube, same thing is true of Twitch to a large extent. Like, all of that's also true in those cases. So, yeah, vote with Luke's wallet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Take. I think that's generally what this is. Bananas packs, I think. Bananas pack, I think that's right. Hey, look, your Starfield review was the first one I watched because I know you're always objective. I'm loving the game so far. 50 hours in. That's awesome. Love it. I'm glad there's a lot to love about Starfield. I think so often it just gets, the messaging gets lost. Like I saw one of the comments on that little debate that Joel Raptor and I have, and they were like, oh my God, Luke hates the game, and seeing somebody that likes the game is so weird for him. Like, dude, I say like 15 times in that little debate that we had that I think the game is like pretty good. The game is easily like an 8 or 9 out of 10, depending on how you look at it. But it has a lot of problems. But for me to raise those problems causes people to just go ree and lose their minds, because it's like there is no nuance. You can't just say it's good and there's these bad things. But apparently you can't say that. It's like, no, it has to all be good or all be bad. Yeah, people want you to back up your critiques as opposed to your compliments. That's absolutely true. And that's why these videos end up being majority like critiques. And people are like, you spent 10 minutes of the 20-minute video like tearing it apart. And I'm like, no, I just said all the compliments up front, and then I spent 10 minutes explaining and trying to demonstrate my critiques. Doesn't mean that they outweigh. They do in terms of timelines or playtime, but that's just because of how this works.
Take Super Chatted $32.28. This is for half the bet we made months ago during a live chat. You said Starfield wouldn't crash and burn like Cyberpunk did. I said it would. It'll get you the other half soon. Slightly smiling face.
You know what? Props to you, Take. I completely forgot about that. That's fantastic. I mean, you don't have to give me the other half. I mean, this is ridiculously generous to begin with. That's that's very generous, and that's good on you for remembering that. That's crazy. That's funny. Yeah, I think at the time what I said was that Starfield I don't think would be as disastrous a game as it's Audi Australian dollars. He's sort of changing you. Hey, Monopoly money is still money, baby. No, it's just like at the time, I think what I said was that I thought that Starfield would not be just a total disaster like Cyberpunk was. I mean, there's no way to spin that Cyberpunk was a disaster, but I thought that Starfield would be a Bethesda game and would still have bugs, glitches, quirks like that. It wasn't going to be a magical improvement. It was going to be more of what we've seen before, but probably more polished, because by all accounts at that point, Microsoft had given them extra time, a lot of extra money to polish. They'd given them access to their engine team to optimize. So I was like, if we look at the evidence before us, it seems that it's not going to be magical because it's still Bethesda and it's still the same engine, same tech. But it's probably going to be the most polished game they put out. It's not saying much, but probably. And that ends up being what happened, you know? Now that Starfield is out, would you say Baldur's Gate 3 is a front runner for Game of the Year? Yeah, I mean, I think pretty clearly. I think at this point, Baldur's Gate is now the highest rated PlayStation 5 game. I think of all time. So far. Games, PS5. PS5 games of all time. Oh no, it was at 97, it dropped to 96. So it's tied for the highest rated PS5 game of all time. It's tied. Like, it's hard. Again, it's just, I don't know how you argue that Baldur's Gate 3 is not the front runner for most of these. Now it's on multiple platforms, which Tears of the Kingdom isn't even on. And Tears of the Kingdom is also at a 96, but I do think a game that's original, or that is rather on multiple platforms, and so it's more diverse in that way. More people can play it in different ways. I think that is in and of itself worth something. And I think Tears of the Kingdom is great, but for me, Tears of the Kingdom is a lot less exciting than Baldur's Gate just because it's a sequel on something that was already really, really good. But like, I played Tears of the Kingdom and I kind of hit a wall where I was just like, I'm good. I did not get lost anywhere near as much as I thought I would, compared to like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, I played that thing for dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of hours, and it never got old. But Tears of the Kingdom, I played it for, I don't even know, I could check on the Switch. That's upstairs, but I could check on the Switch, but I played that for, I don't know, like 65, 75, 85 hours or something, which is still a lot, but a lot less than Breath of the Wild. And I was just like, I'm done. I'm good. You know, I'm good. Do truth or dare and I'll donate. That, my friend, is what we call a trap. No, I don't know. We could do truth or dare on a stream. That could be fun. That could be fun. I could see. Maybe we do it for like a charity stream to raise money for something. I think that could be cool. Armored Core 6 is an 88 on multiple platforms. Hard game of the year. It is for me, but it has fared better than Starfield score-wise. Yeah, well, and everybody's individual game of the year can be different. Like, for some people, a game can click way more than others. For some people, Death Stranding was their game of the year in 2019, and they just loved it dearly, and they couldn't imagine any other game winning it. But for me, I was like, at the time, I was so burnt out on Death Stranding, and I was so sick of it at that point. I was just like, I'm good. I'm good. Let's chill out. And so I, at the time, and granted, this was a little bit of me just trying to stir the pot, do a little, it was me pulling a Sterling right there. But I tried to, or I gave my game of the year to Days Gone, even though it launched really broken and buggy. I would not do that now, to be clear. And it was also because I hadn't played Ghost of Tsushima at that point. If I had, that would have won easily. But at the time, I hadn't played it. Those were the only two games really seriously in contention for me. And so I just gave it to the one that I wanted to see a sequel from more. I was like, I'm good on Death Stranding at that point, but I want to see a Days Gone 2. And now we don't. Now we're not getting that. Luke, be honest, why is it so quiet from CD Projekt Red? Aren't they working on a new Witcher? I think they just learned from Cyberpunk 2077 that talking super early is not actually a good thing. And that's refreshing. I think, like, with Cyberpunk, they had that announced back in late 2012, early 2013, and then it didn't launch until 2020. Like, they just learned, I think, that announcing it too early was too late. Ghost was 2020. Oh, what's the other 2019 game I'm thinking of? There was another one I thought. Let's see. Sekiro. Yeah, Sekiro was 2019. That was also a really good one. Oh, Control was another one. Outer Worlds was another one. I hadn't played Resident Evil. Well, maybe I had. I don't think I had finished Control yet. Smash Bros. Ultimate. Yeah, that's a layup. I just went full contrarian that year. 2019 was my year of being like, of me just trying to be super edgy. Being like, I'm going to give it to Days Gone. You can't control me. Because Control was, for me, I can understand why people like Control, but for me, just Control didn't click. Death Stranding. Like I said, I still enjoy Death Stranding. I'll play it for fun and relax to it, but I just think that it also has good elements and a lot of bad elements. The gameplay, I think, is actually pretty satisfying and fun, but the story is entirely nonsensical and is one of the most asinine and self-indulgent things I've ever played in my life. It is ridiculously bad, like hilariously bad. And I will die on that hill. It's just, Kojima is a maniac. Great game designer, actual crazy person, especially when he's writing stories. Resident Evil 2, that was also really impressive, but I feel weird about remakes winning Game of the Year personally. Smash Bros. Ultimate, this was really good, and I think there's a pretty easy argument to be made that could win it. So maybe Smash Bros would be my game of the year pick if I had to do it over again. Just because like everybody bought it, everybody played it. I'm still playing Smash Bros when we have friends over. Like that's really, that's a layup. And then Outer Worlds was good, but I just don't think Outer Worlds is that good to be game of the year. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. In a lot of ways, it just feels like Starfield Light. And I think that perhaps we will see what Outer Worlds 2 looks like. And it might actually just straight up be like Starfield 2. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I actually think it's a more impressive RPG than Starfield in a lot of ways. But yeah, Starfield shifted into this front-on perspective thing as well in dialogue. That was really weird. But yeah. Yeah, 2019 was a weird year. I say die on that toilet when it's gaming. Oh, that's funny. I like that. It's so goofy on the Switch. Yeah, the Switch port is rough, I've heard. It's pretty rough. Starfield's too controversial to get game of the year, in my opinion. I just think like if there is a question of its quality, I don't know how that wins over a game where everybody agrees it's amazing. And that's Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate 3. Everybody agrees they're amazing. And then Starfield is there with some controversy. I don't know how that beats the thing that everybody agrees is amazing. Personally, I don't know. Spider-Man wins game of the year. Maybe. I think it's nominated. I would be shocked if it isn't nominated because Insomniac is very, very good. But we've just had a ridiculously good year in gaming. It's just been an outrageous year of gaming, you know? Final Fantasy? I don't think Final Fantasy... I think Final Fantasy 16 probably just barely doesn't make it in. I think it gets nominated for like action game of the year and stuff like that, but I don't think it gets nominated for game of the year. I think probably the nominees, depending on how many they have, we probably see Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate. I think Starfield does get nominated. I think we see probably Armored Core 6 get tossed in there. And there was another one earlier this year. Maybe Hogwarts Legacy, just because so many people played it. But like, I don't think Hogwarts Legacy stands a chance of winning because of the controversy. But it's hard to argue that a game didn't have more of an impact on like the public's perception of gaming than Hogwarts Legacy. You know, it was just crazy. Everybody played it. Everybody was playing it. AC Mirage. It's pretty rare for an Assassin's Creed game to get nominated, honestly. That's why it was so shocking when Odyssey got nominated. But like, that's the thing. Odyssey got nominated up against Red Dead Redemption 2. That's crazy. Against God of War 2018. It's wild. It's wild. It's why it's funny. People still will comment on videos and be like, I saw this on the Starfield thing. People are like, okay, so you have problems with Starfield, but you loved Odyssey. It's like, no, I have a lot of problems with Odyssey too. I just think Odyssey as an open world adventure game is like ridiculous. The game's massive and actually pretty solid. It drags on like nothing else in the last quarter. But yeah, Odyssey is a very impressive game, as is Starfield. But they each have problems. Like, again, I'm sorry that the nuance hurts your head, but can't help you. This year was the first year, I think, ever where I was legitimately overwhelmed with games and backlog. I still need to start Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, and Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, this year was a particularly special one. Next year, I mean, what are games next year that are coming? I mean, toss them in chat. What are games coming next year that people are like super thrilled for? I mean, like Star Wars Outlaws, I think looks really cool. That's one I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. GTA 6. I mean, yeah, that's the obvious. That's not even the elephant. That is the freaking blue whale in the room right now. Wolverine, maybe. Yeah, Stalker 2 maybe, Hellblade 2. We'd better get Hellblade 2. At that point, it'll be, what, 4 years since they announced it and showed it off? Better be out next year. Crimson Desert. Yeah, that's true. Black Myth Wukong. LOL, Beyond Good and Evil. Yeah, LOL indeed. Yeah, Crimson Desert. Skull and Bones. Yeah, baby. Maybe. I would think that they would shove it up by the end of this year. But after seeing that they're saying they don't even have an internal release date set, maybe not. Maybe not. Ronin. Oh, Fable. Is Fable next year? Really? I guess I just assumed it was farther out. Yeah, if Fable comes out next year, that's a big one. Death Stranding 2, maybe. I think that would make sense because at that point it would have been going on 5 years, so that would make sense. Avowed, yeah. Oh, Clockwork, that one's coming next year too. Yeah, so there are a lot of good games coming out next year as far as we can tell. So I think next year will be good, but this year is just ridiculous. This year has been very, very, very good. Oh yeah, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Yeah, that's true. I'm working on a video on that. That whole thing is just, what a debacle. I have tried to go back and be like, okay, are we being too mean? Are we being unreasonable? But I don't think we are. I don't think we're being too mean. Like, look at this. Like, this coming from the studio that did Arkham Knight.
Let's bust something up.
Oh, you know what? Hold on a sec. Hello, Brainiac. Is it happening now? Great. You will have Luther ASAP. Good news! You want Luther, all you have to do is come and get him.
Flash is alive.
And he has Luther.
One damn thing at a time. That artillery is gonna wreak havoc on our front line. If there's a snowball's chance in hell you can destroy it, I expect you to. No matter the cost. Are we clear?
Yeah. Where the snowball?
Time to light them all up.
It looks like it was made by a secondary studio. And like these weird shield drops that you pick up, and then the whole system with like, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was initially pitched with like loot boxes to get gear. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And seeing that they have this like in-game store that leaked, like the whole thing is just, it's not anything like what we were hoping for. It looks like a 360 game in terms of gameplay. And I think, honestly, they were probably shocked when the reception was so negative. I think they were excited. Maybe they expected a little pushback, but like the founders of the studio left before this was announced. Which, if that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. Like, they're not old either. They're like pretty young. And they left their own studio that they made. Probably because they were ready for this to be received pretty poorly. And they're like, we're just going to get out of the kitchen before it burns down. There's nothing worse than like weak points like this that are bullet sponges when you're fighting with guns. Like, it's so stupid to me. It's just fascinating. There's so many of these games that launched kind of back to back. Redfall being a recent example, that were initially pitched and created as just these attempted like cash cows, and then they just fall apart and end up being terrible. And then the publishers are like, what happened? We didn't know.
Still in play? Now get out of my way. I have work to do.
Well, hey there, sleepyhead. We've got an interrogation to get back to. Hey. You think I'm just gonna let you walk away? And tell these guys everything you know? You think they can stop us? Pathetic.
Pathetic? At least I'm not a big hero turned stooge for a spaceman.
Okay, Boomerang. You want to see what a real hero can do? I'll show you.
Flash, how do I stop this?
Like, and part of this is like a lot of this stuff I think was greenlit back when like Infinity War and Endgame and all those movies were coming out, and so everybody was just super stoked on superhero stuff, so they greenlit all these massive projects, and then now it's calmed down a lot, and so it just feels out of place.
Starfield is got for me. I have gripes. Like right now I want to unload 1,000 pounds of titanium on Cole, and this MFER is on about his dark past.
Yeah, I know what that's like. He also like, yeah, he's a particularly whiny character for sure. Oh man, it's I would expect though, after Suicide Squad comes out and is probably not received super great, I'm assuming that they're gonna just go back and start doing Batman again. I would expect that they do that, because this is not gonna be received well, and I think they're gonna just, you know, go to something that they know will be well received. Between this and Gotham Knights, they killed the Arkhamverse. I mean, it's also, they killed the idea of these live service superhero games. And it's funny because I think everybody just assumed that those were a no-brainer. Oh yeah, those will make tons of money, but no. It's why it just doesn't make any sense to me that like now Sony is also doing it. Sony is pouring so much money into these live service games at this point that they've basically doubled their production budgets, except all that extra money is now going into live service games. And it's like 90% of them are total flops and lose all the money that they spent on it. They don't recoup any of it. Dead on arrival, 30 players within a week, you know, just totally dead. Except they keep trying to do it. They keep trying. And I just think it's hopefully we're coming out of it, but seeing that Sony is greenlighting all these projects right now, it probably means that we're gonna have another 3, 4, or 5 years of a bunch of PlayStation exclusive live service games that are total garbage, and every time they come out they're mocked into oblivion, and then it's just the cycle repeats. That's what happens when a non-gamer is the CEO. I honestly think so. I mean, I think it's the reason it's important to have a gamer heading up a gaming company is because he can look at that and just tell the other board members and just be like, guys, this is a waste of money. It's not rolling the dice. This is burning cash. It's like going to Vegas while describing it as an investment trip. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. We're going to lose the money we could be spending on projects that will actually verifiably return a profit. If we give a qualified studio time and money, they will make a good game. That's all we have to do. But then these guys come in and they're just like, no, they'll probably be fine. Whatever.
Mescalito super chatted $5. Cole got Karth energy.
Yeah. Real. I don't know what Karth is, but I'm assuming that that's like kind of whiny. Yeah, he's whiny for sure. I think Jim Ryan is a bad CEO. You can tell he has absolutely no passion when he speaks. I think he's a very bad representative of... Yeah, I think he's a very bad representative of a gaming company. Like, if he was somebody way high up and you never saw his face, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But because he is just so clearly somebody that is only concerned with the bottom line, and like he doesn't go to these gaming conventions. He doesn't do any of that stuff. Like he's just concerned with maximizing the bottom line, and it leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. It's just bad. So we'll see though. I mean, he's going to have a whole generation, basically another few years to try and figure it out. So we'll see if he's able to figure it out and make improvements, and maybe they can make it out with, like, we'll be looking back on this and be like, oh, can you believe we thought that Jim Ryan was a bad head of the company? He just had a bad reputation. Maybe. I'm skeptical of that, because it seems like at this point we had a pretty good idea of how Sean Layden was running the company. And then, you know, with Phil Spencer, we have a pretty good idea of his goals and intentions with Xbox at this point. So I think the writing's on the wall at this point. Yeah, Jim Ryan didn't even believe in his own we believe in generations crap. Well, it's because he wanted everybody to buy a PS5 and not wait for the PS5 Pro, since they were sold out everywhere.
The Framinator super chatted $10. I wouldn't be surprised if CA gets burned super bad by hyenas. Looks super cringe. Historical title enjoyers for TW are upset as Pharaoh looks like more of the same, just like Troy, etc. Fantasy history.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out. There's so many little, like, if CA gets burned, bad by hyenas, looks super cringe, historical title enjoys for, oh, Total War. Oh, Total War, whatever it's called, Total War Pharaoh. Okay, hold on, it took me a minute. They also have a hands-on preview of it. But yeah, thank you first of all for the 10. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they get burned super bad by hyenas, looks super cringe, historical title enjoyers. For Total War upset as Pharaoh looks like more of the same, just like Troy, etc. Fantasy history. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how it actually plays. I like Total War. I really enjoy the games. I don't usually cover them on the channel just because my audience isn't super into these types of games, but we'll see. The problem with these games that I have primarily is that they are so heavily monetized and reliant on like DLC and expansions and stuff to make them really playable, that it's just kind of toxic, honestly. It's really tough to just deal with it. Like, look at this. Total War Warhammer 3. Overwhelmingly negative. Only 12% of the reviews in the last 30 days are positive. And you go down, like, look at all the monetization stuff. See how many DLC they already have? Like, bro. That's crazy. Like, that's crazy, man. Especially when the game's already not very good. You read into these, like, enough is enough. I love this game to death, but Jesus Christ, CA is doing everything to change my mind. I didn't complain when the game released in a poor state. I haven't complained about the rare patches. I haven't complained about the lack of communication from CA. I didn't complain about the constant new bugs in said patches. I didn't complain about the price of the new DLC, but the audacity to go out and practically say buy the DLC or we are putting your beloved game in the ground is making me so effing furious. I have been a bystander and taking this crap for too long. It's time to stop. I've had enough of your crap, CA/Sega, whoever is more responsible. Most of us are sick of it. Start respecting your customers. Creative Assembly are basically giving you a bare bones base game and then repackaging the best features into DLC that costs almost half as much as the base game. Yep. 2 Lord packs from Warhammer 2. 4 legendary lords with new or reworked mechanics. Occasional FLC lord, legendary hero, or both to accompany a lord. So $10 each for those. You do the math, 150% markup for starkly less content in one pack than you have paid less to buy than if you had played less to buy 2 of the old packs. And all this after the game has already been modding life support due to CA being unwilling to get on top of major bug fixes, multiplayer desyncs, and other game-breaking issues for well over a year and a half now. Man. Yeah, it's like they have cool IP and stuff, but they are just so freaking greedy and toxic with how they price this stuff. It's really hard to get into it, you know? Like if I'm a new player looking at that, why the hell? Why the hell would I decide to pay $60 for this and give it a shot? Like nobody wants to. It's wild. It's wild. So I mean, I agree. I wouldn't expect Pharaoh to be anything different. Framinator. I mean, I agree. For me, tonally and all of that stuff, that's one issue. But this is, to me, the bigger concern is that they just have for years and years and years put out half-assed games, and then they provide the good stuff in DLC that you have to buy. So if you're willing to buy $200 worth of DLC and a $60 game, you can have a good time. Pretty good. Pretty good. But if you don't want to do that, if you just want to buy a $60 game, you're going to be miserable because all the good stuff's locked away. What are they working on for the Suicide Squad delay? This game is giving me adventure game vibes. I don't think that they've said what exactly they're working on. I think they just said polish or something. I don't think they went into any clear details. But yeah, the whole thing is really, really weird. Whole thing is really weird. Oh yeah, no, Starfield's going to be played for years. Praise the Oak. I mean, it's scoring about like a little bit higher than Fallout 4, and people are still playing Fallout 4 and doing mods for it. Like people are going to be playing Starfield forever, which is why like this whole thing, like all the drama going on with it, is just kind of dumb at the end of the day. Like the people who love it are going to play a lot of it and are going to forgive them or look past a lot of the crap and a lot of the weird missing stuff because they're just going to mod the game out. Already, I saw somebody on Twitter, they were saying that they already have a kit of like 10 mods. I think it was 11 actually. Like 11 mods that they have installed for the game. And technically it launched, what, 2 days ago? And they already, to make the game what they want it to be, they have like 10 mods. Things that tweak bug fixes and things that add DLSS to the game, movement improvements, inventory management improvements, like all this stuff, which frankly should be there day one. Like pretty basic stuff. But the community for BGS games are willing to just tolerate it. It's weird. But this happens every time they release a game where everybody agrees, hey, it would be way better if these things were here. And then modders come along and a single guy does it in an afternoon and has the mod up by dinner time the day of the game's launch. But Bethesda can't get it put together in years of development time. Like, it's just freaking weird. Yeah, the map, the inventory, and DLSS are all things I think hopefully we can all agree on. I just, inventory management is a nightmare. The map on planet surfaces is laughably horrible. It's one of the worst I've ever seen. Like it would almost be better if there was just no map. Like it's that bad. And DLSS, there is just no explanation for it. That should be in the game. AMD, their competitor, even came out and said, nope, they could put it in. We're not stopping them. And then a modder does it in an afternoon. Like there's no reason that BGS can't do it. The only reason they didn't, seemingly, is because they didn't want to, because they knew modders would just do it for them. And that to me is just kind of slimy. When you're like, we know we should do this, but we're not going to because they're going to do it for us. Like that's just crummy. Do you think Last of Us Part 3 will come out? I think so. They're not allergic to money. I think they take their time. Maybe they're working on it now, but I think that they take their time, probably time it out for season 3 of the show. That to me is just a layup, right? Because they've already been very like, oh, maybe we'll do a season 3 for the show. They've already said that. And so to me, I'm like, well, season 2 is going to be the second game. So what's season 3? Makes sense to do it on whatever the game is going to be on. Also, thank you for your 5, and Mr. Momon for the super chat as well. It's gonna read this real quick. I'll do takes and then I'll respond to this one that just popped
Mr.
up.
Moman super chatted $5. Sorry for spamming, but can you check out next 2 Warframe expansions that were announced at TennoCon? It's nuts. Crazier than Duviri.
Oh, really? Yeah, I can pull that up. Let me do takes first because I missed his initially a couple of minutes ago. I know No Man's Sky flopped at the start, but people need to start giving that game a little more respect and much more praise than it gets. It's incredible. Oh, it is. And I think that Internet Historian video did more for No Man's Sky than anything that they've done themselves to market the improvements. Like, it's crazy how much people... the narrative around that game has turned around. But even back at launch in 2016, that game still had mechanics and features that were more impressive than what Starfield's putting out. And I mean, people just respond to it by saying, well, it's because Starfield's not trying to be No Man's Sky. It's like, yeah, they're trying to be something much bigger and better with a team of hundreds of people instead of just like a team of 24 people. And a lot more dev time and a much bigger budget. And they couldn't even figure it out. Like, that's a valid critique, I think. Like, it just is. And then this one from Mr. Moment. Thank you also for the 5. Sorry for spamming, but can you check out the next 2 Warframe expansions? Announced. There we go. Let's see. Is this it? Is this it? Whispers in the Walls. Cinematic quest Whispers in the Walls. In this adventure, they'll be returning to the Entrati family on the moon of Deimos in order to hunt down the man in the wall, a mysterious eldritch force which has been taunting us in the background for quite some time. Interesting. And then they're also going back to 1999. It's a time travel involving prototype versions of the sleek robotic Warframes, CRT screens. Really? That's trippy. It's very novel, though.
And today in Warframe, I want to talk about what is Warframe 1999. Warframe 99 is so far looking like a prequel Warframe story. It is going to be a Warframe update in 2024. It's not a separate game or anything like that. No, no, no. This is just going to be Warframe 2024's like big update essentially, right? Because guess what? Warframe has more updates.
I mean, it's just crazy. Warframe is one of those games where I think they do the live service right. It's just so crazy to me how much content is there. And like good content, high quality content. It's not this low effort crap from Call of Duty. It's like they put some really good stuff together. So that's interesting. I'll have to keep an eye on that. That's super cool. Oh, you guys, you're all pretty. It's funny. We always have people come in and not realize that we like to, we do a little trolling. We do a little trolling. A little bit.
Swizz super chatted $5.
Thank you, Swizz. It's very generous. Thank you. Top 3 games. I think for me, I'm probably at this point, I would say like Red Dead Redemption 2 for me is very special. Near and dear to my heart. I'd probably say The Witcher 3, and then I have one more to select. Man, I probably Breath of the Wild. I mean, I think just in terms of like Red Dead or The Witcher 3, obviously it's special to me because I've played it a ton, and it's also part of what helped build this channel, and it also ignited my love for gaming and like all this stuff. And then Breath of the Wild, I just totally lost myself to it. It's one of the best games ever made. It's just wildly impressive in every way. And then, you know, with one more, I'm like, Red Dead Redemption 2 is just an incredible game. But maybe I could swap that out and say like AC2, because I also love AC2. That's very near and dear to my heart because it's like the first time I fell in love with Assassin's Creed as a franchise, and that of course is something I cherish. So I don't know. Top 3 is tough. Top 3 is really, really tough. The one game that I think is obviously going to still be there is The Witcher 3, no matter what. But yeah, probably those. LA Noire is also very good. Top 4 or 5. I mean, if I get 4, I probably then, you know, it's Breath of the Wild, Assassin's Creed 2, and then for the 5th one, maybe Fallout New Vegas. Yeah, that one's also very special, very near and dear. Also made me kind of fall in love with those types of RPGs. But I mean, there's just so many good games. It's really tough. Arkham City, yeah, that's another one that probably would be tied with Fallout New Vegas for me. So I'd say so. Are you planning to stream in 1440p? We were streaming in 4K. 4K 60. I upgraded all of our stream equipment to be able to do that, but it adds about 20 to 30 seconds of latency, which to me was just a little frustrating. Because if I say something now, you know, or like you see the messages pop up on screen, if I say something now, it's going to take like 10-ish seconds to get to you. And then your reaction to that takes 10 to 15 seconds to get back to me. So all told, or I guess technically that's not correct. It takes like 20 seconds to get to you, and then like half a second for your chat to get to me. But it just means that everything is slightly delayed. So we could get used to it. I think we could adjust to it, but it does change the setup, you know. Is that with the V1 encoder for the latency? Yeah, we'd be using AV1 with the 4070 that's in the streaming PC. So it would all be done with AV1. So it looks incredible. It's super sharp. It's great, but we lose the kind of quick, candid chatting, which that's kind of what this stream mostly is me just chatting with you guys. So for us, it just didn't make a lot of sense. Maybe in the future, if they can figure out a way with RTMP Plus or RTMP-S Plus to support lower latency, that would be awesome. But we'll just have to see. Let's see. Oh no. Are you ready for a headache? Are you ready for a headache? I'm going to regret this. We're going to read a tweet from Colt Eastwood. Yay! Everybody take your ibuprofen now. Grab your Tylenol. This is what PlayStation fans don't understand about Starfield celebrating 6 million players. 1 year exclusive revenue. Okay. PlayStation 4 exclusives, 20 million sold, 1.4 billion in revenue. Xbox 4 exclusives on Game Pass, $4.3 billion in revenue. Forspoken, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7, and Spider-Man 2 2023 sales, roughly 20 million times 70, 1.4 billion. Xbox, Hi-Fi Rush, Redfall, Starfield, Forza, Game Pass subs, 30 million times $12, 4.3 billion. Okay. Like, yeah, you'd hope that, like, out of this 30 million subs to Game Pass, which I'm not sure if that's confirmed, you would hope that people would be playing it. Okay. But, like, if we're talking that 20% of subscribers are playing Starfield, I just don't want to know what the other 80% are playing. You know, like, I don't understand what the point of it. Like, yeah, yes, 6 million players is triumphant. That is a lot of people playing your game. but it's also like you'd expect that. Like I honestly would expect more. Maybe there's going to be more people to jump into it, but with 30 million, I think the last number I saw was 25 million signups. I would personally expect more, because I'm like, it's the only big game to come to Game Pass in a bit. And if we pull up the Xbox app now, like you can see the whole thing is themed around Starfield now, like the whole thing. So they're really, really pushing it. I'm just surprised, honestly, that it's not more people playing it. But still, I mean, it's a great number. It's a great number, but I don't know what the hell this has to do with anything. I think they're saying like maybe he's dealt with people coming in and being like, well, what's the big deal with 6 million when we have Spider-Man 2, which is going to sell like 10 million on its own? I guess that's what he's trying to counter, but I don't know what this has to do with anything. Like, okay. It is kind of, I mean, this guy says it's comparing apples and oranges. I think that's probably fair. It is, because again, if you have Game Pass, you're going to try Starfield. Whether you play it, whether you get the achievements and actually finish it is another question. But I would imagine that you try it. But man, I just don't understand sometimes. Console fanboyism rots your brain, everybody. It rots your brain. If you became Xbox CEO, what would you change? I mean, I think the current trajectory that they're on makes a lot of sense. It just... The Game Pass value is very, very high. I don't know the numbers though of what, like how profitable it is, because we're all assuming that 25 million signups paying $10 a month or whatever, we just assume that that's profitable. But there's a lot of expenses tied with this. They have to pay licensing deals to get the games to come to the service. They have to pay deals to publishers to bring things like EA Play to the service. They are paying out to studios based, my understanding is, the last I saw it, they pay out based on hours played. So the more hours played in a game, the more money that dev or publisher earns from that. So it's not like they're just pocketing the money. Like, it's one of the biggest misnomers that I can think of with this conversation. That's like the mistake Colt is assuming. Colt's assuming that the money is just like straight cash into their pockets. Like, no, they're paying out on all of this stuff. They're making good money, but like there are still expenses tied to it. Why do you think all of these subscription services like Netflix or Disney Plus or any of these, why do you think they're hemorrhaging money? Like, they've lost billions of dollars on those subscription services because they're not that simple to run and operate. They're just not, especially when you have to talk about big server infrastructures that support it with xCloud and all that. It's a very, very expensive thing to do. So, who knows how profitable it actually is. But Microsoft can sink a lot of money. Yeah, they have a lot of money to juggle it, but it still is either profitable or it's not. Either it's making the margins that they want or it's not, and that's something that they know because the numbers are internal. We don't know because we're on the outside, though. But that's the thing. Like, when Spider-Man 2 launches, if it sells 5 million copies or 10 million copies or whatever, that is money directly earned from that game that offsets the expenses for that game and its marketing and development costs, and any excess is profit. Awesome. With Game Pass, the whole thing is that Starfield does not, except for the pre-orders and the people that were willing to pay more for early access, Starfield does not actually create that big of a spike in signups. And at the very least, if it creates a spike in signups, that's going to trail off once people finish Starfield. They're hoping people forget to update their like to cancel their subscription. They're hoping they forget to do that. But still, that is a thing that you have to factor in, is that it's not this big spike of revenue like a big release.
$10. Think how long it takes to land your ship in Ed, then multiply that x every quest in Starfield, and you quickly understand why you get either RPG or space sim. Not really is about what you value in your games.
I'm gonna read the message again because the robot voice like kind of shuffled it up and made it hard for me to understand. So first of all, thank you for the 10. That's very generous. Think how long it takes to land your ship in Elite Dangerous, then multiply that by every quest in Starfield, and you quickly understand why you get either RPG or space sim, not both. It really is what you value in your games. I mean, I would say something like Star Citizen is also a space role-playing game, but it's more hard sci-fi. So like there's a term called hard or soft sci-fi, and I know it sounds sexual, but it's not. So the difference is like soft sci-fi is when it's not like super serious, like it's not trying to be the most realistic or grounded thing. It's just trying to be something that like serves the purpose. Like Star Wars might fit into soft sci-fi, you know, whereas something like what Starfield's trying to do is fitting into more hard sci-fi than soft. Like they're trying to ground it, make it so it's not just weird magical abilities where, how does this technology work? It just does, you know, kind of like Star Trek leaned into. So squishy sci-fi, yeah. No, there's low and high sci-fi, and then there's soft and hard sci-fi. Like I listened to Todd Howard talk about it at length in an interview. And how he pitched Starfield was that it's more hard sci-fi than soft because they're trying to keep it relatively grounded. They want you to have ships where it makes sense how they operate, that you have this reactor that powers these engines. These engines need a certain amount of power, and that's how this happens. And so it all kind of trickles down. It's supposed to be more realistic, basically. Yeah, NASA punk is the subset that would define it. And so for Starfield, it's pretty clear that they were not trying to have a game where you are just freely exploring space, where you're just, you know, you boot up the game and you just spend 10 hours doing whatever and just floating through. The game is kind of guiding you by way of quests and missions, just like every other Bethesda game, right? That's why it's good. And that's when Starfield is at its best. When Starfield starts to flounder is when you try to play it like those other games, naturally. The only problem, as I understand it, that most of these people have had when they bring up things like Star Citizen or like Elite Dangerous is that Starfield has entered the consideration or has entered the same realm as those games when they promise you things like free exploration on planets, like the ability to build and craft your own ship to travel to over 1,000 planets in a bunch of different star systems. When they promise you these same things as these other games, they're going to be compared. And so it's all trade-offs like we were talking about with Joraptor. They traded things like the free exploration on the planets of just seamless planet exploration. They traded that for something where you land in the fishbowl and then you have the points of interest. And that, I think, is an interesting trade. But my problem with Starfield is that even that isn't executed well because points of interest are recycled constantly. Maybe they can balance that as updates come out and they can change how that's done. We'll see. Maybe I just got really, really unlucky in my playthrough. But I showed the footage. Like I showed the footage in the review of running into the exact same points of interest every single time. Not every single time, frequently while exploring these planets. And so if it was done really well, if the fishbowls were designed really, really well, I wouldn't have that big of a problem with it. But because even those fishbowls are showing repeated content, are showing content that isn't very interesting. Like you run up to this and, oh, it's a fauna hub. I'll scan that. Done. Oh, I ran over here and it's the same cave I've seen 15 times. That is not a worthy trade-off, in my opinion. Like trading the free open exploration for that is a bad trade. Whereas if we like what we got instead were really elaborate points of interest that are so varied and so different that it's always something new and interesting and intriguing, but that's not really what we got. And that's why I think the trade probably didn't make a lot of sense, because they traded it for something that was markedly worse. How many handcrafted points of interest do you think there are in total for the in the pool to pull from? I'm not sure. I think it depends on the planet. I think it depends on the microbiome that you land in. So like if you're in a microbiome that has poison effects, for example, then they have a certain pool to pull from for that. Whereas if you pull, or if you land on a, like say a moon with craters and it's just kind of, there's no life there, you know, it's very cold perhaps, that has a different pool to pull from. So I think it depends on where you land. If you land on a lot of similar planets, like for example, when I was exploring, I liked to, when I was looking for resources to build a base, I wanted to go to these rocky planets or to these colder planets on the outskirts of a system to get the materials that they had and the resources and to set up extractors and things. But when you go to those planets that are similar, they pull from the same pool, so your likelihood of seeing repeated points of interest goes up a lot, right? So that's just where you start to, it's why I said, like, the more you really deeply engage with systems in the late game, the more you'll see under the hood and realize that a lot of this is just the illusion of scale. And that's why, like, if you're hunting for resources, you're going to be going to a lot of the same planets and a lot of the same biomes. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff. In the same way, if you decide, oh, I want to go complete side quests, and you go and do that, you're probably going to see a lot of stuff pulled from the same pool for those side quests. So, yeah, I mean, it's all been said before, but I don't even know where I started with that. But with how many items are there to pull from? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but it's a not big enough pool, I think, for what they have. It seemed to me like there were maybe 10 items or 10 points of interest or 15 maybe in some larger areas. But I ran into many, many of them frequently and repeated. And it's one of those things, like, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. I think a lot of people are able to play initially and tune that out. But when you start to try to, like, wait, I've seen that before. And once you've noticed that things are repeating, you're going to see it constantly. Oh, dude, I love Kerbal Space Program. I love Kerbal so much. They should have focused on one star system, just like Elder Scrolls, focus on one region like Tamriel and expand the universe with the following entries. I think that would have been more fun, frankly. I think that would have been much better. Hold on. Chat's got to update. It's frozen on my screen. Yeah, these messages that are frozen on my chat are from... Like, we were still talking about LA Noire, so that was a minute ago. Hold on. Ooh, Taylor. Oh, thank you. Be our savior. Be our savior.
Taylor Bunker super chatted $10. Gonna try and shift the dialogue away from Starfield for a bit. It's giving me a headache lol. Wondering if you watch Ghost Files from Watcher. Shit's hilarious. Hashtag Shaniac.
Ghost Files from Watcher. Wait, is that the guys with like Shane and they used to work with BuzzFeed? Is that them? Their new channel? Yeah, Watcher. Yeah, this totally is them. Yeah, I've loved their stuff forever. I thought it was really cool that they left and made their own channel. I mean, props to them. That must have been pretty sketchy to leave BuzzFeed and go do your own thing. Like, that's pretty amazing. But yeah, I started watching them back when they were doing BuzzFeed Unsolved, like early on. Like, that must have been what, 2016 or something. A lot. I watched everything they have. I even have that whole playlist downloaded in case anything ever happens to it. So I have it like on my server my home server as like a TV show that I can watch through. So I have them all saved. So yeah, I've got it all. I love those guys. They are very, very funny, very good. And like, obviously I'm a Shaniac. I relate a lot to Shane with the skeptic stuff. It's just like, it is just always a little baffling when you see people come in and like something weird happens and Shane's like, oh no, it's an old house, so it creaks. Meanwhile, Ryan is like crying in the corner. It's like, no, it was a ghost. I felt something touch my foot. He's like, well, then why didn't I feel something touch my foot? And then they're like, okay, well, this is the most haunted spot in the house. There's a pentagram drawn in the floor. And so Shane's like, okay. And he lays on the pentagram and it's like, dear Mr. Ghosts, you have permission to do whatever you want to me. Maybe pluck out my eyes. Maybe shove needles in my toes. Like, you know, he like throws it out there, but nothing, of course, happens because it's all just up in somebody's head. Yeah, I think that's what I'm like when we go to those haunted houses, or like we went to a haunted tour of what is it called? The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, which is allegedly very, very haunted. And you know, everybody on the tour is like, "Ooh, I felt a shiver, a breeze." I'm like, it's because the window's open, dummy. Like, you know, like people just are so, they love to be baffled. They love the mystery of it, even when they're being stupid. Ranger McKay, thank you for becoming a member at the show off tier. My goodness, thank you, my friend. That's very generous. Welcome.
Peyton Witch super chatted $4.99. Just wanted to say I love your content. It's like comfort food. Good luck with the move.
Thank you, Peyton. Thank you, Peyton, for the $4.99. And yeah, the move's gonna be crazy. The move's gonna be crazy. For those of you that weren't in here earlier in the stream, we had an inspection done on the place, and we discovered something pretty severe, which is why it's good that we did the inspection, or the sewer line inspection. Because basically what we found was, like, if there's a house, let's do like a little house. Okay. Ooh, house. And then we have like the front door and windows. Ooh, so pretty. What a beautiful little house. And then we have the roof. Oh, lovely. Looks just like it too. So normally what you want for the sewer line is for it to come out of the house at a downward slope down to the main for the city, which is like those big sewer pipes that they run under the streets. And so normally like the maybe lawn is like right here, and then we have a little sidewalk right there, and then it's a road that goes right there, right? That's normally what it's like. What we found when we did this sewer scope yesterday was that the pipe comes out of the house, goes like 90 degrees, like 90 degrees again, and then starts drifting down. But instead of going straight down, it goes down for a bit, and then it has what's called a belly. And this is bad because water doesn't flow this way. Water doesn't flow. I guess this might be confusing with the 90-degree angle because those aren't quite like that, but it's like this. Okay? When there's a belly, the water doesn't flow. This gets caught up. And so then you have pee and poo just sitting in the pipe, and it can't drain down to the city because it's supposed to go straight down like the brown line, but now it's stuck. The only way you fix this is by digging up all of this and digging trenches and redoing the pipe and then putting all the dirt back down and then repaving the street, repaving the concrete, everything. And it turns out at this house, this is in grass. This is the driveway. The red is the driveway. So in order for them to fix this, for us to buy the house, they said it was going to be like $25,000 to $28,000 and take probably a couple weeks. So We'll see if that happens. We'll see if that happens. But I mean, at this point, the seller has to fix it because he can't sell the house to anybody now that this has been discovered. He has to disclose that this is found. So the seller can try to back out and just be like, I'm just going to use it as a rental with a screwed up sewer pipe. And yes, the tenants will have like their toilets constantly backing up with sewage and stuff, and it'll leak sewage up through the basement drains and stuff. But I don't care. It's cheaper than 28 grand. He can say that, and then we just lose out on the deal and we move on. But I mean, he wants to get rid of the house. So at this point, he's just kind of screwed. So he's going to probably have to pay for them to dig all this up and repair it. And then we can buy the house. And then everything else in the house is great. There's no other issues. Like the roof is new. Everything else is good. But yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. Like this is one of the biggest things and biggest problems you can discover with a house when you're buying it. So it's pretty rough. Yeah, it's good. Happy you found it now instead of after buying it. Well, the guy that the plumber I had there, he came out and he was like, so I just did one of these sewer scopes for a young couple, very similar to you and your wife. He's like, they bought a house. Then, and they were just, it was in the COVID rush. So they didn't have it, the sewer line inspected. How they do it is normally they run a little camera through the pipe, through the clean out. And if it's good, they just see a straight pipe, everything's draining, it's good to go. If there's like a clog, or if a tree branch if a tree root has cut in, they'll be able to see that on the camera, and then they can pinpoint where they need to go to fix it. They can do that. But with this, he gets the camera, and from the moment he puts it in, it's underwater completely, or under P or whatever. And he can't see anything until he pushes it all the way up here, that it gets over the hump, and then he can see down. So then he knows it has a bubble. But he said that he took this family and they were doing the they did the inspection because they wanted to sell it after being in this house for about a year and a half. And he said that they had 113 foot belly on their pipe, all the way through like the garage, out the front, down into the street. Like he said, this was such a huge problem. He said we had to quote them $57,000 to fix it. $57,000. And the only way you can fix it is by paying the cash for it. And this was like a young couple. They bought this house on a lot of debt with like 3% down. They don't have $57,000 in cash. So they had to still try to sell it and take that off the price of the house. So they went from like, we are going to make money on our house, we can buy our dream house, to all of a sudden, we are going to lose money on this house, and we're probably going to have to go get an apartment instead of another house. And because they already used their first-time homeowners loan incentive, now they have to wait till they can get 10 to 20% to put down on a house, or find a conventional that'll give it to them for like 5%. But like, dreams destroyed because they didn't have the sewer line inspected. They didn't have a sewer scope done. Like that, he said he felt so bad. He's like, I was telling them about it, and the wife is in the corner sobbing, and the kids are crying because their mama's crying. And he's like, I felt horrible. But what do you do? Like, can't do anything. Why did they build it like that? Well, so they don't. This is just what happens because the ground swells. When it gets hot, the actual earth expands just like anything else. It's like when they're building skyscrapers, they have to account for the metal expanding as it heats up. And when it gets cold, it contracts. And so for this, it's just something that happens over time. Is it will swell, and then roots might grow underneath it, and then it swells again the next summer as roots grow underneath it. And that just slowly, it's like lift it and then put a piece of wood under it, lift it, put another piece of wood under it, lift it, put another piece of wood under it. That's what it's doing. And it just takes years and years to happen. And you won't know until you have something like this done, where a sewer scope is completed and they discover it. And unfortunately for that young couple, they could have discovered that when they bought the house, but because they were rushing, they didn't. And now it's on them. we discovered this on this house that we're trying to get before we've bought it. And so naturally we're like, no, you're going to fix it before we buy it. And they're like, okay. The seller understands it. It's a big deal, but it's just what it is. I live in Idaho. The housing market is insane. A lot of senior citizens can't afford property tax, even though they paid off their house years ago and lose the house due to high market value. Yeah, because when the market value of the house goes up, you have to pay tax on the market value, not on what you paid. So how much of a delay would this be for you? It's like 10 business days for the permits to come back. Because again, they have to get like traffic control. They have to have the police there to divert traffic while they do it. Because they have to dig up like half the road. Like they have to dig up a 3 to 4 foot trench wide out about 10 feet into the street. So they have to dig out a ton of the road, dig about 10 feet down, and then install it into the pipes, and then they're good. And then they fill it all back in and put an asphalt patch over it. It's like a huge deal. Like this is, again, like apart from maybe the basement being cracked and collapsing, this is like one of the biggest problems you could have in a house. And so I'm just very glad that we discovered it before buying it, because that would have been real rough. But yeah, they said about 10 business days, and then probably a few days of actual work. So all told, it probably delays us by a couple weeks, which is a bummer. Let's see. That would ruin it for me even after fixing it. Images of poop and pee having flooded that home before. Yeah, well, that's why, like, for us, we're like, hey, if you fix it, we've never lived in the house. So as long as, like, it's fixed, there's no current signs of water damage or anything. So it seems like so far they've avoided major issues. But the plumber, I asked, what are the odds that the tenants or the people living here would not have noticed that? He's like, oh, they would have noticed it. They would have noticed. All the drains would reek. The like sinks would have trouble draining properly. Like he's like, this was something they knew about. I'm like, okay. Is it bigger? Yeah, it's a good bit bigger. Yeah. Luke blew up the neighborhood. Yeah, well, I mean, this is why, like, I have the experience in corporate real estate, and with apartment buildings, we never skipped the sewer scope. So for this, I was like, no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Even though they're like, no, well, let's just get the deal done. Let's hustle along. No. We're going to do it. Buyer beware. Yeah. Trust but verify. And when it comes to the skeleton of the house, the plumbing, the electrical, never take anybody's word for it. Get in there and deal with it. We bought a new build in the UK mainly to avoid such issues. Thought you pay a bit of premium with it being brand new. Well done for spotting that. Yeah, appreciate you. It's just, yeah, it's it could have been bad. It could have been bad. Because if we hadn't discovered this, we bought the house. In 6 months, it starts flooding. I have a plumber come out and look at it. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, this was here for years. But because he didn't see it, now it's on you. And it's going to be the cost of a very nice car to fix. Jesus, dude. But don't you have a 1-year warranty or something? If it's a new build, yeah. So if it was a new build, you'd have like a 1 year or 5 year or whatever warranty on the house. So if this was discovered, it was a new build, you could go back to them and the builder would have to pay to fix it. But because this is an older house, it's not a new build. It's just the owner's problem. And if you're the owner at that time, you know, you're screwed. It's funny, this is a text about this very situation. Yeah, I love this broker too. We're working direct, so we save money on that. And because I'm a licensed broker, but I'm not taking fees. We just save money. So, yeah. All the new houses got rushed, took shortcuts. Yeah, definitely still do inspections for new builds for sure. What's your take on Moist Critical's Starfield review? I watched a good bit of it. I thought in general he made good points and they were valid. Most of Starfield just comes down to whether you are bothered by constant load screens, by the outdated tech and stuff like that. If you're not bothered by it, you can have an amazing time. But if you are bothered by it, you're not going to be able to look past it. It'll just be a constant annoying thing that you have to deal with while playing the game. And so like that really is all it comes down to. I like, if you can tolerate it, if you can put your Bug-Thesda glasses on, you can have a great time with it. But if you are not willing to do that, or if you can't do it, it just doesn't matter. You're just not gonna have a good time with the game. That's why all of this like debate over whether the game is objectively this or objectively that, it's just kind of stupid. Like, the game's pretty good if you're willing to tolerate all those weird quirks. You know? That's why buying a house is so stressful, because it feels like you may get scammed. Yeah. Well, you don't know what the seller knows. You don't know if the seller's being completely honest with you. And even then, like, the seller might not know. Because, like, the guy that owns this house that we're dealing with, he was an investor. So he never lived there. He only bought it to have tenants there. So he doesn't know any of the stuff about living in the house. He has no idea. Like, he just bought it for other people to live in. That's it. So for that, it makes it extra stressful. You know, at least if the seller lived there and we can prove that this would have been known by the tenants, then the fact he didn't disclose it would be a big issue. But because he didn't live there, he has deniability, right? But it's not just the loading times. The way you interact with planets and explore the planets feels pretty limited. Yeah, well, like that's why I said like technological limitations, because like Starfield's small tiles, I know people are like, oh, the tiles at times are bigger than the map of Skyrim. Yeah, and they have less points of interest and things to do than a city block in Skyrim. Like, but they're all spread out so far that you have to run for 4 or 5 minutes in real life to reach them, doing nothing except jumping occasionally and maybe using your jump pack or boost pack or whatever. You know, like it's if you're willing to look past that stuff, you can have a really good time, I think. But there's a lot of people who are just, they've played newer games with more impressive tech and they're just like, I'm good. What's my dream car? Maybe, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not really a car guy. I like one time I got a ride. It was like an Uber ride in a very, very nice Mercedes. Like this was a $200,000 Mercedes. And I never understood luxury cars till we hopped in that thing and saw how silent it is and the build quality and the speaker systems. Like everything was ridiculously nice. And I was like, okay. But I don't know if I could spend that much money on a freaking car. You know, like I'm just as impressed, I think, at times with like the brand new Honda Accord. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Get yourself a V8. No, I'm not one of those guys that likes the I don't go for that. I like it when I hop in the car and I'm on the highway and it sounds like I have earplugs in. I don't like hearing the wind of the highway or the other cars. I like it when it's just dead silent. I can hear myself think. You know, that's what I love. So electric cars would also be a good option. Model S maybe is the ideal. A speedster, I don't know. Do you drink soy milk? Oat milk. I just bought a Jeep Gladiator. What is its silent interior? Yeah, I don't know though. Like I honestly don't know. I mean, maybe eventually we'll get a Tesla or something. I don't have any idea. But right now I work from home. The idea of me paying a lot of money for a car just doesn't make sense. Especially like, and this is where I get caught. When I think to myself like, oh, I could spend that money on a fancy car. Yeah. Or I could spend it on like contributing to my retirement and my kids' college funds so that they can go to school and not have to work crazy hard like I did as a plumber as a janitor all through college, barely scraping by and racking up credit card debt just to survive. So I could buy the nice car, or I could do all of that. I'd really like the nice car, but then my kids wouldn't have a college fund. Like, I can never unthink it once I've thought it, you know? Then I get screwed. Do you think Ford stock is a good investment right now? I wouldn't touch Ford in general. I have just heard too many horror stories of mismanagement. I don't know if I'd buy a Ford right now. They've had tons of recalls. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but a Lambo is a Lambo. Yeah. Did you work as a janitor during college? Oh yeah, no, back when I was still on like early days of this channel, I was working as a janitor. At the time, I think I called myself a custodian because that's what the job title was. But it was a janitor. I mean, I went around cleaning the building and bathrooms and stuff. Like, I was a janitor, but they called me a custodian because it sounded better. And of course, when you're like 18 years old, you're not going to go and be like, oh yeah, I work as a janitor. You're going to say I'm a custodian because it sounds better. And nobody wants to be like, yeah, living the dream. I'm a janitor. Even though like you're just working your butt off. You're doing good work. You're making the money, getting your bag. Like, who cares? But at the time, like, I was embarrassed by it. So I would always say custodian. I want to make money like Todd for hyping up mediocre games. Chase your dream, bro. Chase your dream. Not gonna lie, you should be super proud of that. Well, now I am. I'm like, I've worked in like fast food. I've worked as a janitor. I've worked as a broker. I've worked in sales and retail. I've seen all those sides of those jobs, and it makes me really appreciate the people that do it. So I'm very thankful for that experience. At the time, it's not that easy to be like, I'm glad I'm doing this. But looking back on it, I'm glad that I did all of that. For sure. My BFF's Chevy Silverado was made in Mexico. His Wrangler before that said made in Mexico, and my Nissan Frontier that outlived both of those was made in Tennessee. Always thought that was funny. I have no idea where. I think most like Teslas now are probably made in China. I think that they have like a factory in Berlin now as well. I don't know. Phantom Liberty, yeah, I'll be playing that. As for reviewing it, I don't know. We shall see. We've sent the emails and tried to get in touch with people, so we'll see what happens, how the cookie crumbles. How to meet my wife? We met in a theater class at a community college. I walked in the room. She was playing the piano and singing. Most theater kid thing ever. It was quite fun. Yeah, oh, that's cute. It was pretty cute. Is your new place in Florida? I know you were talking about potentially moving there. No, it's in northern Colorado. We were going to shop around and look in Florida, but then we just hit a couple of timeline things where we just don't have the time. Because we were like, okay, yeah, next summer probably we'll move. Looking at Florida, we'll do that. But at this point, we don't have that much time, so we just have to get a place. So, what do you think PlayStation needs to do to justify their price hikes? I'm not sure. Like, just going from $60 to $70 needs a justification other than just inflation. Like, it's clear the value of the dollar has plummeted, so I don't think it's outrageous to say that you pay $70 for a AAA game now. Like, compared to 2019. $70 now is worth what $60 was worth in 2019. I know that's trippy and weird because that wasn't that long ago, but that's just how inflation works. It makes money less valuable. So I don't think they need that much of a justification. I know a lot of people are like upset about it and don't like to like there can't be an explanation for it. But as a finance guy, like I think it's very valid. Personally, so I don't think they need a justification there. Other stuff that they've done, like the PlayStation Plus prices, I think those are ridiculous because the value proposition there is laughably terrible. Like, it's just really, really bad. Breakcat, yes, it was at Front Range. Front Range Community College in Fort Collins, Colorado. Sure was. What do you think about all these rich people moving to Puerto Rico? I have family that's trying to move to Puerto Rico. I don't know if it's because they're rich or something, but I know of people trying to do that. The other one is Costa Rica. Costa Rica is really popular. One of my old bosses was building a massive like giga mansion in Costa Rica because he was going to retire, and then he moved there for like 6 months and then came back because he was bored, and so he started working again, unretired because he was just too bored living in a tropical paradise in Costa Rica in a giga mansion. It's like, that's the problem with being a workaholic. You make a lot of money, but you're such a workaholic that you can't enjoy having the money, you know? It's the whole thing. Mr. Mo, it's been half a year of witnessing Luke piss off hype beasts. Stay real, champ. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, dude, sometimes it's like everybody's just mad at you because you're killing the vibe, but it's like a game like Starfield comes out and it's right in the middle, and it sure enough is still a Bethesda game. It's not the second coming of God Howard. It's just a pretty good game that has some problems. And now everybody's like, well, yeah, but we knew that the whole time. I'm like, you were not saying any of this a few weeks ago, but now you're like pivoting and trying to cope with it. But if you just keep a level head from the start, from the beginning, you can avoid all that drama. But anyway, my friends, we've been going for 3.5, going on 4 hours. I'm about to pee my pants, so I'm going to call it there. This has been a joyous, joyous stream. We will be back on Monday, and we'll have a wonderful time playing, streaming, blah, 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 having a great time together. I will look forward to it. But in the meantime, much love. Thanks for chilling with me. Thank you for the incredible support. You guys were very generous. Lots of like memberships and super chats. You guys are outrageous. You guys are very, very generous. You humble me every day, my friends. So stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend. Much love. And I'll see you very, very soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.